Carl Sagan could not have predicted was trying to tell us back then.
We're very powerful. This country is very powerful. It's far more powerful than people understand. We have weaponry that nobody has any idea what it is, and it is the most powerful weapons in the world that we have. More powerful than anybody, not even close.
Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Okay, finally. Sorry, guys. Holy crap. I apologize. My sound was not working. I guess everything restarted itself. All my settings were wrong. Now we're correct. My bad, guys. Apologies. We're back. Don't worry. I will reiterate what I just said in case you missed it. First of all, thank you very much for being here tonight. Sorry for the mute for the first 3 minutes of this one. I'm just ranting on while no one's listening. Okay. First of all, people are like, what was he saying? Why was I laughing? Okay, Carmen San Antonio, I see you in the chat. I saw your joke the other day, and I have not been able to get out of my head. Carmen San Antonio was telling all the white supremacist, racist people that she was put on this earth to end their bloodlines. Which, oh my God, chat, Lulu sighting. OMG, chat. There she is. Rare Lulu sighting, chat. OMG. Look at her. She's making a little nest. She's making a nest on the couch right now. OMG. There it is. Okay. So anyway, Carmen Sandy Antonio, shout out to you. That's the greatest response. I just thought it was hilarious. Other thing, this was the thing that I was talking about when I was on mute. JK Philly fan mentioned that there were planes that should have been able to see MH370 the night that it disappeared. There was a video that came out a couple weeks ago that shows the radar plots of all the planes. I don't think we're going to have time to look at it tonight. There's just too much stuff to talk about, and now I'm 5 minutes behind already as well. So we'll probably take a look at it on a Friday. But yes, there were multiple planes that should have seen MH370 that were in visual sighting of MH370 that did not seem to see the plane. And this would be indicative of the plane not having navigation lights. There were no navigation lights on MH370. And so that was potentially the reason why they didn't see the plane. And this is consistent with what Catherine T, she was a witness on a boat. She saw the plane MH370. She said there were no navigation lights on it. By the way, I'm aware the sound is fixed. There's a lot of people that are probably just catching up right away. If you were listening, sorry, the sound was messed up. So yeah, at least like 2 planes should have been within range of MH370. And I just think it's really interesting because I watched the whole video. It's basically just a video of all the planes flying around in the sky. And after I watched that video, I emailed Jean-Luc Marchand and the other crew, and I just said, how do you guys not realize the MH370 videos are legit? How do you not realize the MH370 videos are legit? You literally just draw a straight line from the last radar plot, and it goes right through the coordinates in the Gorgon Stare video. How are people not realizing the videos are real? I seriously wonder sometimes about the intelligence of humanity in general. Okay, let's get right into it, guys. Scott Horton. I just recently got into new drama with Scott Horton. Scott Horton had no idea who I am, even though I have way more followers than he does, like 100,000 more followers than he does on social media. I know who Scott Horton is. Now, I am going to judge here without really watching his content because I'll be honest with you, I do not watch 4-hour revisionist history podcasts. I don't do that. I don't have time for that. I don't care about that kind of stuff. I don't respect libertarians. I don't respect the revisionist history. I don't respect this weird anti-Israel, like making up of history that's been going on the last, I mean, it's been getting worse and worse, honestly. But how this started was that people were saying, like, what is the biggest risk to humanity? And I think Elon posted about it. And I saw a post that said the H-bomb. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, the H-bomb. We know a lot about the H-bomb. I've been doing live streams about the H-bomb for several weeks now. All about the H-bomb, including the history of the H-bomb. In fact, you'd be pretty hard-pressed to find somebody that knows more about the physics of the H-bomb and the development of it than me at this point. I mean, sure, there's people out there, probably many, but percentage-wise, not a lot. So I basically replied in my snarky reply and said, yes, you're probably right, but I also guarantee you don't know anything about how the H-bomb works. So that led to Scott posting about me today. Here we go. Let's take a look at his feed, guys. And right off the bat, I can tell this guy's just a complete and total douchebag. Complete and total douchebag. I never really had respect for this guy. Like, I've seen his stuff on the internet, right? All the fake woke grifters love him because he pushes a fake revisionist version of history that blames Israel for everything. He pushes this version of history where all the wars that we've gotten into are not with any reason. We just love destroying people for no reason whatsoever, right? Like, that's his perspective, my understanding. And if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. And so, oh yeah, God, 3 posts. We got 3 posts. This is actually so similar to Dave Smith. I triggered this guy about as hard as I triggered Dave Smith. And the reason why this guy is mad and why he's so triggered is because these people know they're full of shit. Dave Smith, Scott Horton, they know they're full of shit, man. They know they're full of shit. They know that their ideas don't stand up to scrutiny in any kind of real debate. They know that. And that's why they're terrified of me. Ask yourself, I've challenged this guy to a debate on nukes. He wrote a book about geopolitics and nukes. and he's afraid to talk to me. Why do you think that is? Because I'll fucking embarrass him. I will fucking embarrass him in front of his own audience. That's the reason why. So here you go. Scott Horton. So super genius expert declares to person he's just heard of for the first time in his life, I bet you don't know what fusion is. Wow, you're so impressive. Quantum this and that and all kinds of stuff. So right off the bat, you can tell he's a complete moron, right? Like, this is anti-intellectualism. It personified right here is, oh, you talk about those quantum things. No one knows what those are just quantum things. Nobody knows what those are. Look, dude, if you don't understand what quantum mechanics is, you definitely don't understand thermonuclear weapons, okay? Thermonuclear weapons are essential, or quantum mechanics is essential to understanding fusion and thermonuclear weapons. So the moment I hear you make stupid shit like this, like trying to put somebody down for talking about quantum mechanics, like, herder, you talk about quantum mechanics. Yeah, I guarantee you I know more about nukes than you ever will in your entire life. You could study for 1,000 lifetimes and you would still never know as much as I know about nukes right now. Okay. So this was what started it, right? You can see it right here. Also correct, right? So in your opinion, what's the greatest threat to humanity? But I guarantee you, you don't know what an H-bomb does. So let me be clear. Scott Horton does not know how an H-bomb works. So when you are listening to these people who are proclaiming themselves to be geopolitics experts, geopolitical experts, they claim they know the reason why we got in all these wars. Keep in mind, these people don't even know about how thermonuclear weapons work or what they are. He doesn't even know what the definition of aneutronic is. He doesn't understand the concept of directed energy conversion, right? But they want to tell you that the Jews caused all the problems in the world and all the wars that we're fighting are to support the Jews and whatever other bullshit narratives that they're trying to spread. Okay? But obviously he wasn't done then. That wasn't enough. Oh, did he delete his other posts? Where are the other ones? Oh, okay. No, I didn't study nuclear anything in college, but I know plenty about nuclear weapons. So can anyone with the slightest interest. Okay, let me address this point real quick for Scott Horton as well. Yes, you're correct that technically anybody can understand thermonuclear weapons if they actually research them, if they actually do the work to try to learn and understand physics, which I guarantee you did not do. I guarantee, Scott Horton, you didn't do those things. I guarantee that what you did was you asked your buddies and you said, yep, those people know. I'm just going to go with what they have to say. Because if you don't know who John Knuckles is, then you don't even know the very first thing about the H-bomb. Since he helped develop it and optimize it. Since he literally developed inertial confinement fusion and the National Ignition Facility, where we literally test inertial confinement fusion and produce over unity. So I just think it's so crazy about how these people operate, which is, if this is how their mentality is, how do you trust someone like this to tell you about history? You're trusting somebody that says, yeah, I don't know how physics works. Yeah, I don't know how nukes work. But you know what? I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. So now I'm going to go on Lex Friedman. Yeah, see, I know who you are, Scott Horton. I'm going to go on Lex Friedman and do a 10-hour podcast claiming to be an expert. It's just, I mean, it's literally the dumbing down of America. This is the reason why I post. This is the reason why I do the Carl Sagan video in the beginning. It's the literal dumbing down of America is what this represents, is what Scott Horton represents. Is that, yes, I don't know anything, but my ideas are just as good as yours. Okay, then you know what? I have a great way where we can settle this. In fact, libertarians love this. It's called a debate. It's called a public debate. Scott Horton, I'm challenging you right now to a public debate about geopolitics and thermonuclear weapons. You wrote a book about it. You should have literally nothing to fear from somebody like me. I've written 0 books. So you should easily be able to dismantle me in the debate. I tell you what, why don't we go on Piers Morgan? I've seen you on Piers Morgan. And why don't we do it there? Does that sound like a great idea? I mean, you're a libertarian that believes in free speech and believes in debate. So you have no excuse to reject this debate. None whatsoever. Let's make it happen. The people want to see it. The people want to hear it. And the people want to be educated. The only reason I can imagine that you would not want to accept this debate is because you are afraid. You are afraid that a random guy like me will embarrass you and expose you publicly for not knowing what you're talking about. There you go. Challenge issued. Challenge issued. Okay, next thing, guys. Yeah, nobody debates anymore, right? Have you noticed Dave Smith ran away? Ian Carroll ran away. Scott Horton's going to run away as well. We know they're never going to accept a debate. None of these people's ideas can stand up to somebody who's actually educated and knowledgeable. And when they do debates, they go and debate the dumbest people out there, right? They either go on the platforms that are not hostile to them, or they go and they debate against people that are clearly not on their intellectual level. That's how we see this happen repeatedly. And the moment people like Dave Smith go talk to someone like that Coleman guy, they just get completely annihilated. Completely annihilated. Okay, let's move on from that. I want to get to the main topics, but we have one or two more things to discuss here tonight. One, I might have to switch up my room. Lulu left, chat. She left. I might need to get a TV in the background. All the grifters are doing it, and I can't be left out. I cannot be left out, chat. Oh, by the way, the people that are saying Nick and Ben need to debate, I have a screenshot right in front of me right here that shows that Nick Fuentes ran away from a debate with Charlie Kirk before he died. Candace Owens tried to set up a debate between Nick Fuentes and Charlie Kirk, and Nick Fuentes ran away from it. Just pointing that out. Not just have that out there into the ether. Don't worry, it's on my list. I've got like blackmail info on basically everybody out there. Okay, so the other thing that everybody's been freaking out about is this kid getting arrested for throwing coins at Dave Portnoy and calling him, F the Jews or whatever he said. And of course, all of the grifters. Now, this is the worst thing to ever happen for all the grifters because they immediately see that they could be the next one to get arrested, right? And what I'll say is that the kid is probably not going to be going to prison or anything like that. He got arrested for disturbing the peace, okay? And yes, any of the liberals who are like screaming outside TPUSA, throwing things at people, throwing things at ICE officers, they also should be arrested for disturbing the peace. We are not hypocritical. I am not hypocritical. I think that everybody who is screaming at people, throwing things at people in public, you should be arrested. You should be arrested and met with the full force of the law. Now, the reality is the kid's just going to get released and they're not going to actually give him any significant time, especially if he's a first-time offender. So the people that are freaking out about this, what they're really afraid is the message that it sends. That's what they're afraid of. Now, there was another incident. It turns out Elijah Schaffer, who I was once upon a time, I followed him and he followed me. I think I was on his show like a year and a half ago. I had disavowed myself from him back in the end of September when him and all the other grifters were pushing the fake Charlie Kirk conspiracy crap. I said, I'm done, bro. I unfollowed him. I didn't say anything. He noticed I unfollowed him and he confronted me in my DMs. I've posted it on Twitter. You guys can take a look at it if you want. But I basically said, I'm done with the schizo stuff. I'm done with all the people pushing fake conspiracies. I can't do it anymore. The Charlie Kirk thing pushed me over the limit. Goodbye. Turns out Elijah Schaffer is now being sued for $5 million by Kash Patel's girlfriend. What's her name? Something Alexis something. And the reason being that everybody has been saying that Alexis is a Israel honeypot and that Israel has control over Kash Patel because of his girlfriend. And so Elijah Schaffer retweeted or quote tweeted a picture of them together with the context that she's an Israeli honeypot. He just got sued. He got sued, and now everybody has lost their minds. Now you've got Candace Owens and Dave Smith and all these other people saying that, actually, maybe Dave Smith didn't say it. Ian Carroll and Candace Owens definitely said Kash Patel should be fired for this, which is insane because, first of all, Kash Patel is not suing them. It's a completely civil matter. It's completely civil matter. But I did read the case. I read it. Guys, I might be one of the only people in the world that actually reads the legal cases before commenting on them. And the case is very weak. I'm not sure why Elijah Schaffer is even that worried. Now, there's two sides to it. One side is absolutely he was implying that Kash Patel's girlfriend is a honeypot. In fact, I think he would admit it. I mean, everybody in the replies knew that's what he was implying. Everybody knew it. So I find it interesting because the case may hinge on what his intent was. The case may hinge on what his intent was, but in my opinion, it'll be difficult to prove that intent with the high level in the court, in the United States courts, that is required for defamation. Now, at the same time, I mean, he definitely did admit that, or he definitely did imply that. And in the case, they go through all of his other posts in the last 2 months where Elijah is constantly hating on Israel, blaming Israel for everything, blah, 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 blah. So I guess all I wanted to say on that is that if you lie about people, you can get sued. When you get sued, it's not the government coming after you. It's a civil suit in a private, a civil court. So it doesn't have anything to do with the government. And what I noticed right away is that he's been using it to fundraise. Like when somebody calls you out as a grifter and a liar, the last thing you should probably do is use it to victimize yourself and to fundraise off of it, because then it really seems like that's exactly what you were doing. Now, the last thing I'll say on that front is that the last thing that Elijah asked me when I told him I'm done with all the schizo shit, you've lost your mind, I'm not interested, was he said, "What, are you Jewish or something?" That was his last response to me. And that was so telling to me. That was so telling to me. And even Nick Fuentes had a clip that I saw earlier today. I think it was from yesterday or something like that, where he's demanding loyalty. Nick Fuentes goes, "I hate all the people that are ankle biting me, all the people that are needling me," which has got to be the most hypocritical statement ever, because that's literally all Nick Fuentes has done his entire life. Nick Fuentes' entire personality is based on needling people and attacking people on social media. His whole life is. And then yesterday, he's making a clip saying that he's demanding loyalty from all his subjects, that nobody's allowed to speak opposite of what I say. You can't even make up this level of hypocrisy. But it goes to show that's exactly where Elijah Schaffer is coming from. These people don't see it as just politics. They see the anti-Israel situation as that's their whole personality. They see it as an us versus them. It's never been about the truth. This whole weird Israel derangement syndrome thing, it's not about what's true or not. That's not what it's about. The reason why they always ask you if you're a Jew is because they want to know which tribe you're on. They want to understand, wait, but you're on my tribe. How come you're not pushing my fake propaganda with me? They look at it as a game. They look at it as the way people look at sports or WWE. They're not out here trying to find the truth. It's a propaganda war. And they admittedly are in it and they love it. Max Blumenthal, the guy is the biggest piece of shit on the earth. That's who they're all sourcing as their journalist. He's not a journalist, not in any sense of the word. So I just need to keep pointing this out. And for the people that get upset about this, I'm not going to ever stop. I'm not going to ever stop. And the reason why I'm never going to stop is because of the people that are constantly now in my replies trying to harass me, trying to cancel me over this. You are the reason why I'm going to destroy your movement. I've said it many times. Okay. And just for people who are keeping score at home out there, guys, people who are keeping score at home, Nick Fuentes offered to unify with anybody on the right that would unify with him. You know how many offers he got? Zero. Literally nobody wants to unify with Nick Fuentes. Not one person. How much power in government do groypers have? Oh, 0. How many politicians are groypers? 0. Not 1. 0. Do you feel like you're in charge? Do you feel like you're in charge? I'm doing the Bane right now. These people are completely delusional. They have literally no power whatsoever. They are quite literally anti-MAGA. They are attacking the vice president, and they think that somebody's going to respect them. Bro, nobody respects you, man. Nobody in the real world respects you. I know you don't want to hear it. It's just the hard truth, brother. Just the hard truth. Okay, let's get to the fun stuff, guys. Let's get to the fun stuff. That's enough. Oh, wait, is there one more? I got to get that TV screen in the background, guys. I got to get that TV. Oh, one more thing. The Epstein hoax. Oh, shit, chat. The Epstein hoax. I'm actually starting to think that Epstein is a hoax now. Don't start yelling at me just yet. I'm not saying that he didn't go to prison. I'm not saying that he wasn't, selling prostitutes or whatever the hell the guy was doing, right? What I'm saying is the Democrats are using this topic that they never, ever cared about before, and they're using it to attack Trump in a dishonest way. Today, the Democrats released new Epstein emails that implicate Donald Trump as a pedophile. Whoops, what do you think happened, chat? What do you think happened? Oh, it turned out the emails were already public, and get this is the best part. The Democrats redacted parts of the emails that were not even originally redacted. They redacted parts of the emails to hide the name of the person because the name of the person was Virginia Guthrie, and she's already completely exonerated Donald Trump, both in court and in her private memoirs as well. So the Democrats literally posted fake news that was already public. They intentionally redacted things to make it seem more nefarious so that we couldn't actually track down who the person was. But they didn't realize the emails were already online and they already completely exonerate Donald Trump. Guys, this is the level of propaganda we're dealing with here. When people are going to that level to push fake content against people, now you've got me wondering if the whole Epstein thing isn't a Democrat hoax. Now you've got me wondering if the whole Epstein thing isn't maybe just a Democrat hoax. And here's another fun story. I wasn't sure I was going to tell this because it's about my own family member, and I know I could have anonymized it, but I'm not going to. My brother was in town recently. I love my brother. Don't get me wrong. I love my brother. So don't you dare try to build a schism between us. We've had enough of those. But the Epstein thing came up, and my brother's a lefty. He's admittedly a lefty Democrat. And he starts going off about how Trump's a pedophile. And I'm like, what do you mean Trump's a pedophile, dude? And he's like, what, you don't know about Epstein? He's like, Trump is definitely how do you support a pedophile? And I'm like, I don't. Trump's not a pedophile, dude. He's like, but he said these things. I'm like, he didn't say anything that would imply that he's a pedophile. And then my brother's going off about the Epstein files. Well, why won't he release the Epstein files? And I go, dude, you never cared. I was like, dude, I've known you for 40 years. You've never, ever once in your entire life ever mentioned the Epstein files to me before. This is what I told him. Literally, we were having a walk and I go, you've never, ever mentioned the Epstein files ever in your life before. And now you're ranting on them to me, claiming that they proved Trump was a pedophile. This is the reason why I don't believe the Epstein files are like this huge thing. Because if they were, then Joe Biden and the Democrats would have just realized they would have released them last 4 years. They would have released them in the last 4 years. What are we talking about here? We're like pretending like Joe Biden wasn't in charge of the country for the last 4 years. Well, maybe he wasn't. Maybe he wasn't, chat. So I kind of just like, this is the problem I have is that the Democrats don't give a shit about Epstein. They never cared about Epstein. They literally never cared about Epstein. They're just pretending to care about it because it's a political wedge that they can use to divide the right. That's the reality of it. So Maybe there's Epstein files, maybe there's not. Of course I want all the Epstein files to be released if they exist. But if you're just going to release stuff that's already public and try to build it up like it's a new revelation, that's not truth seeking. And especially if you're selectively leaking stuff, you're like, I'm just going to leak this, but not anything else. So that's my position on the Epstein files, guys. Feel free to hate on me in the comments where I don't really care about what people say. So go for it. Also, just as a statement of fact, nobody is blocked on my Twitter except for maybe an impersonation account or two. And I don't have anybody blocked on YouTube anymore because people were crying about how they were blocked, blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't figure out who to unblock. So I just unblocked everybody. So don't abuse the privilege, chat. Don't abuse it. Okay, let's get into the spice, chat. I know you were here for the science. You had to stay for the politics. If you made it this far, hopefully it'll pay off. Here we go. Okay, we got multiple clips for you tonight, chat. It's going to be a little clip episode. A little clip episode for you tonight, chat. Let's start with this one. Eric Davis. Is this the right clip? Here we go. So, you guys know all about Eric W. Davis. At this point, I feel like I've done more work than anybody else to make Eric Davis famous at this point. I've been saying his name about as often as possible. Have been showing all his interviews. Dave Rossi, who I just interviewed on Sunday, had an exclusive interview with Eric Davis just a couple months ago. I asked Dave Rossi multiple questions about Eric Davis. Specifically, what I wanted to know about Eric Davis was, why is Eric Davis have all these scientific papers about teleportation, wormholes, and all this stuff? And then when other people are promoting the exact same things, he goes, no, that's all fake. That's not real. It's so weird the way that he poo-poos other people's ideas that are really the same as his. And it makes me wonder, truthfully, it makes me wonder if he's not pushing disinformation intentionally. Like, I don't know what is the requirement when it comes to nuclear weapons and NDAs. Like, are you forced to lie? Are you forced to discredit themes that are classified for national security? I'm not sure. I don't know. Anyway, James Fox, he's a producer, documentarian, film producer, whatever. He interviewed Eric Davis, and here's Eric Davis talking about what it would take for him to testify to Congress. Now, this is huge, because how many times have I said this? That none of these engineers are ever going to testify to Congress. Eric Davis, Hal Puthoff, Charles Chase, none of them are going to testify because they have NDAs and they would go to prison. They would go to prison if they were to testify in public. Okay? So here he is. Wait, I got to switch my shares. Here he is talking about it. Let's see what it would take.
Claims.
If the president of the...
Okay, hold on. Where is it? Yikes, I feel a little bit icky. I feel a little icky, chat, when I share Ross Coulthart posts. If you're not familiar with Ross Coulthart lied about me on TV, lied about the MH370 videos on TV, didn't understand my position about the MH370 videos, conflated two completely different debunks. He mixed them up and got them wrong. And if that was not enough, as if that was not enough, he also wrote an 8,000 character essay to Scott Roeder, the guy who investigated the Las Vegas alien sighting, telling him not to trust me, making up fake claims that I issued death threats against Ross Coulthart, that my followers were issuing death threats against him, and that all the videos were fake and it's all a psyop. So do I like Ross Coulthart? No. Ross Coulthart is a piece of shit, 100% lying piece of shit. But I'm still going to play this clip. Here we go.
Where's the proof? We have alien spaceships in our possession. Mm-hmm. We have bodies. Where and why can't I get the specifics to verify those claims?
If the president of the United States issued an executive order that absolves me of all of my TSSCI NDAs. NDAs are non-disclosure agreements. Those are the agreements we have to sign for every compartment in our SCI clearances. So if the president waives or absolves my obligation to those NDAs, and I get subpoenaed by Congress, somebody on Capitol Hill, some committee, either in the Senate or the House or the both, to reveal everything I know that I learned from my investigations, both unclassified and classified, into the legacy UAP, crash retrieval, and hardware reverse engineering and NHI programs, I would do so. If I could be waived from that or absolved in some fashion by presidential order, and if Congress subpoenas me, yes, I would go and tell them everything I know.
Wow. Wow. You know, I gotta say, chat, two things. One, I asked Dave Rossi about, does he think that Eric Davis can lie? One of the things that people say about Eric Davis is they say he's very honest. But at the same time, I get weird vibes from him, like he's intentionally obfuscating on certain topics. I guess here's the thing. I can't get over the fact that there must be some, like, I don't feel like the whole alien narrative is made up out of whole cloth by the CIA. It feels like there's at least an element of truth to it. Like, all these guys that we listen to, there's a common theme about the program, reverse engineering, that we've got these secret technologies that we're figuring out, we're learning about. And I'm willing to believe it, I think I'm willing to believe it. Although it certainly could just be all gaslighting, and we could have been working on it. It could just be like a code name for nuclear weapons, right? That we've been working on. But something about it feels like there's a there. I just don't know that it's necessarily the way they've been phrasing it to us. That's the vibe I get from it. Like, there's some element of truth to it, but it's also clearly being used to cover up our weapons advancement and how we're using these weapons on covert operations. That's what the MH370 videos tell us unambiguously. The MH370 videos don't show any aliens flying around. They're not showing us reverse engineering them or doing any crash retrievals. The MH370 videos are showing us conducting an operation, including advanced weaponry. All right. So I just thought that video clip was interesting, given the context that we have been talking about. Now, the Age of Disclosure movie is apparently going to come out. I am not a supporter of the Age of Disclosure movie. I probably won't be watching it either. I have been blocked by the movie producer, and Dan Farah blocked me, even though I didn't even know who the hell he was. And the Age of Disclosure promotional Twitter account also blocked me. So I get the feeling like they don't really like me very much. And I'll just say the feeling is mutual. I don't respect them. I don't think that the movie's going to have any revelations whatsoever. Certainly not if you've been following my content. And the only people I'm even interested in hearing from is certainly not Chris Mellon. I seriously don't want to hear anything that Chris Mellon has to say. Hal Puthoff, Eric Davis, and Marco Rubio are basically the only three people that I want to hear from. I don't really trust anybody else to tell me anything that's even close to worthy of being informed about. Okay, so let's move on to the next thing, though, which is this kind of segues into the main topic of tonight, the CIA. If you guys did not watch my content, I don't blame you. I don't blame people, and I don't make people watch my stuff. In fact, when people argue with me, I'm more than willing to explain my positions to people repeatedly. In fact, I've done so ad nauseum. John Ramirez is a GS-15, which is the highest rank you can achieve in government. GS-15 CIA agent. And about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, we found an old interview with John Ramirez where he was talking. Actually, it seemed like he was talking to nobody. It was a very, very weird interview. About a 30-minute interview where he's just sitting there in front of a camera and he's just talking about aliens, plasma orbs, advanced technologies. talks about Eric W. Davis. I think the big thing was this. He mentions, John Ramirez mentions Eric Davis right after John Ramirez talks about bigot list. We didn't even know what a bigot list was. A bigot list is like the secret list to the club, the VIP list to the club for special access programs. And John Ramirez says he had access to some of these bigot lists because he ran one of these compartmentalized special access programs. And he said the lists were very short. There was only a small number of people that were on the list, and only those people on that list have access to these special access programs. This is the reason why people don't know nuclear weapons are manipulating space-time. That's me just adding that. Now, right after that, he says, he goes, I know Eric Davis, the guy that we just saw that video of. I know Eric Davis in a way that he doesn't even know I know him. Let me repeat that. You know what? I'm not even going to repeat it. I'm going to play the clip for you because this interview, John Ramirez has just done a follow-up interview. John Ramirez just yesterday did a follow-up interview with Project Unity where the first video played. My impression is this. If you were to ask me, Ashton, make a list of all the people that could have written the letter to Ashton Forbes, the Diego Garcia whistleblower letter to Ashton Forbes letter that was posted in early January 2024. Make a list of all the people that could have sent that to you. The person at the top of that list, John Ramirez. John Ramirez is the first person at the top of the list. I'm not saying that John Ramirez is that guy. I'm just saying that's the psych profile of the person that would have sent me that letter. Somebody like John Ramirez, who is CIA, that had inside information, that can't publicly speak about these things because they're all classified, and is knowledgeable enough about technology that he could have used AI to write a letter to me and post it on YouTube. Now, once again, I'm not saying John Ramirez sent me the letter. I'm just saying he fits the psychological profile of somebody who would send me to it. Now, because a lot of people in the comments are also saying, well, John Ramirez is kind of a weird guy. Yeah, he is kind of a weird guy. And he admittedly believes that the reptilians are controlling the planet. Admittedly believes it. He's not even ashamed about it, guys. But a lot of what he says is very obviously correct and true. And I'm not talking about aliens. I'm talking about he knows how the CIA operates. So I went ahead and I watched the whole interview just for you guys, because that's how nice of a person I am, so that I could have some notes and have some key points so we don't have to watch a 2-hour interview. And so, because there's a lot of really good stuff to take away from this. In fact, when I listen to John Ramirez, in some cases, I know he's not talking to me, but it feels like he is. This interview is about how the CIA operates, how they are divided, and how to FOIA them to get results. Interesting, right? Especially because my whole life for the last 2 years has been about FOIAing the CIA and the government to try to get information about MH370. And in most of those cases, I've gotten nothing back. And I learned several things from this interview. Now I know, for example, that if we are to try to FOIA like the Gorgon Stare footage, we probably don't FOIA the CIA directly. We probably FOIA the NGA, the National Geospatial Agency. Now, I would never have known this before this interview, but that's just one example of one of the things that I learned in this interview. Also, welcome back, Lauren White, my number one supporter. My number one supporter. Lauren loves Ashton, chat. Just want to point that out. Okay. So let's get to this interview, guys. I've talked about it enough. Now you're probably just wondering, like, who is this John Ramirez guy? Why is he interesting?
Applicable to someone else.
Here you go. CIA GS-15 reveals UFO knowledge for researchers. So shout out to Project Unity. I do not like Project Unity at all. I'm not friends with him. I think he's a pretentious piece of shit guru, that they do this fake guru shit. And the only reason why I'm talking shit about him right now is because I met him at Cosmic Summit. We were at a VIP exclusive party at one of the rooms. And we had like a normal bro conversation. And then he just starts taking shots at me like a week later. Like 2 weeks later, he's out there going, I met Ashton, he's a scrawny loser in real life, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, bro, I'm like a foot taller than you. And you're a little fucking cuck elf. And you were pretending to be nice to me while we were at a thing, while you then go and take shots at me behind my back? Like, no, I will never respect Project J Anderson, Project Unity. I will never respect this guy. And he's got one of the biggest egos, undeserved egos, that I've ever seen in my whole life. And the reality is he's extremely jealous of me, of my rise, and of my work. And to that, I say, do better, bro. Do better research. Okay. That being said, I'll still go ahead and give him a shout out, because even though I don't like somebody, I still am not going to hold it against you when you have good content. That's just how I roll, chat. Okay, here's the clip. Where's the clip? I think it's right here. Okay, let's see. I might have to find the transcript. Hold on. Is this going to play?
What's being experienced, it's all labeled under the phenomenon, including, as we learned, the more disturbing aspects of the phenomenon, which appear to be malevolent to human beings. So it's all up under phenomenon. And the fact that we can discuss this now is a big step forward. Now, as far as what the government does, but I returned it saying, I don't want this control access program. I'll serve for this out of.
Okay, here we go. Let's do it. Let's go with this. Okay, so he talked. This is the original video, guys.
To know more, and he was denied.
So, this is the original video. This is not the follow-up. He actually spliced the first video into the longer one. I was confused at first. This right here that you're seeing on the screen is something called the Wilson Davis Memos. This is a UFO thing. If you're not familiar with the UFO topic, you're not missing out on anything, to be honest with you. There's just a bunch of weirdos that are chasing aliens, and they're never going to find them, by the way. But this was actually interesting because Eric Davis talks with Admiral Wilson, and Admiral Wilson tried to get access to these special access programs, and he was denied. So this conversation was between Admiral Wilson and Eric W. Davis, where Eric Davis is trying to get information about how and why Admiral Wilson was denied these special access programs. So it gives you a lot of insight into how the government hides these nuclear weapons programs, and they hide them well.
The programmatics, as we call it, the logistics, the budget, the location, the progress made in that program, all of the details at the program level, he was denied. And I believe that that's possible based on my own experience with this other program. Now, I just want to say that I was the control access program officer for this at a very brief time because I did not want to have this responsibility. So I returned it to the sponsoring office, which I cannot reveal. But I returned it saying, I don't want this job. But it was very, very insightful to see who was on that bigot list and who was not on the bigot list.
Pause, chat. Gravity class pause right here. So he said, I don't want this job. I'm on some special access program list. I'm the manager of some special thing. I didn't want this job. I gave it back. But he says, it was very, this video is like 5 years old, by the way, guys. This video is like 5 years old. He's a lot older looking right now, as you're about to find out. He says, I didn't even want this job. But he says it was very interesting learning about who was on these bigot lists. Very interesting. So let's see what he's about to say right after he says that. What does he say?
Now, secondly, I happen to know Eric Davis in a way that he does not know I know him. And I can't reveal, because I don't have his permission from Dr. Eric Davis to reveal how I would know him. But there are several CIA officers in a managerial capacity that knew him. And so I hope that Eric Davis will reach out to me, or I can reach out to him to see if I can tell the rest of the story. And if you hear the rest of the story of how these CIA officers know Eric Davis, I think it will surprise you. based on the timeline of what Eric Davis was doing at the time, his work with the Air Force Research Labs, and his subsequent work with ALSAC.
What? Bro, that's even crazier in retrospect. He goes, it'll make sense when you know what Eric Davis was doing for the Air Force Research Labs. Chat, what was Eric Davis doing for the Air Force Research Labs? Does anybody know? Hold on. Let me find it. Let's see.
Advanced Concepts Office at the Air Force Research Laboratory, which is located at Edwards Air.
Wait, what did he do? Did he just say Air Force Research Labs right there? That's Eric Davis right there. That's Eric Davis in 2006 talking about what he did with the Air. Let's listen. Let's listen to what Eric Davis was doing with the Air Force Research Labs. Here you go.
Force Base, California. That's one of the locations of many of the Air Force Research Laboratories, and this is just one office there. This office sponsored the teleportation study for the reason that it needed to develop a database or a knowledge base of the state-of-the-art of teleportation physics. The purpose of the study as...
Oh, he was working on teleportation physics for the Air Force Research Labs. Wow. Okay, wait, hold on. Hold up. Pause. So, John Ramirez was just talking about special access programs and secret bigot lists. And then he says, I know Eric Davis in a way that Eric Davis doesn't know I know him, clearly implying that he saw Eric Davis's name on a special access program bigot list. And he says, it'll make sense when you look into what Eric Davis was doing for the Air Force Research Labs. Well, what was he doing? Doing teleportation physics studies. Literally, that's the name of the study. Teleportation physics study. 2003, 2004. Go look it up. I've read the whole thing. Let's let him continue because it gets better.
Detailed in the contract statement of work was to examine all knowledge of any developed physics or extrapolated physics that could be foreseen for the development of a teleportation process.
And teleportation, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but teleportation, are we talking Star Trek, transponders? What do we mean?
How about like in the movie The Fly? That kind of teleportation.
And it's real.
And
you're saying it's real.
Yeah, Star Trek's transporter is actually a teleportation device. A teleportation device means to instantaneously transmit disembodied matter from one location to another. So you would assume that the matter would be dematerialized, turned into a beam of energy or a beam of matter, and rematerialized elsewhere. And that's one form of teleportation. But it's basically generically defined in terms of disembodied transport of matter. But anyway, the purpose is to study the scientific literature and collate and collect all the information known about the state-of-the-art in teleportation. So I was to look at classical physics for forms of teleportation, quantum physics to examine what teleportation was possible there, and any other forms of teleportation that were known, that may be known in nature. And so the study ended up inviting the research that I had to do into that and collect.
This isn't even the clip that I was looking for. That wasn't even the clip I was looking for. I got a better one. But that goes to show you, and I read that paper, so I'll tell you, Eric Davis is being a little bit disingenuous in that clip. Eric Davis, when he was asked about Star Trek teleportation, he wanted to say no, but he avoided it because Star Trek teleportation is fake. Star Trek teleportation is fake. The version of teleportation that we're doing is based on wormholes, based on what you call it? The VM teleportation. There's a bunch of different versions of teleportation, including sci-fi teleportation. But the real form of teleportation is manipulating space-time itself to create a shortcut, right? Not like, and I don't even know, turning matter into an energy and then beaming it. Maybe you could say that's macroscopic phase conjugation, but I think he's being disingenuous in that clip. Here's the other clip. What is it called? Eric Davis, General Lonnie, Eric W. Davis, Eric What did I call it? One sec, guys. Eric Davis, General Lonnie. How come I can't find the General Lonnie clip? Weird. Okay. Can't find it right at the moment. I'll try to find it here in a little bit. Anyway, I have a clip of Eric W. Davis from that same interview saying that General Lonnie of the Air Force Research Labs, he was the commander of the Air Force Research Lab, held up his teleportation physics study paper and said that this is the example of the research he wants being done in his labs. So when John Ramirez is talking about knowing Eric Davis, he's clearly connecting the UFO phenomenon to teleportation physics, and specifically the teleportation physics that Eric W. Davis was doing.
And that's all I can say for now. Eric, I would love to hear from you. So what does the government know and what doesn't it know? Well, the government knows a lot, and you know the government knows a lot.
So I'm going to move to the next thing here because I've got a whole list of clips that I wanted to go through here. Oh, actually, there's... Oh, okay. No, I got those other two clips. Good. Okay. So what does the government know? I wanted to start right there, which is if there is UFOs flying around, which I think everybody agrees, we don't know what they are, but they're flying around. The United States government knows what they are with a good degree of certainty. Even in the most crazy scenario, the United States government knows what the stuff is flying around, right? This is the part that people, I don't think, really understand our surveillance capabilities. They really, really underestimate military surveillance capabilities. There is no scenario by which there's magical balls of energy floating around in the sky that we are catching on satellites, drones, etc., that we are not investigating to figure out what they are. That's like quite literally the purpose of intelligence. And John Ramirez talks about this in the interview. He talks about how the process works. We see something. What they do then is they try to figure out, okay, could it be Russia? Could it be China? No, they don't have those capabilities. Then what else could it be? The thing I never hear him say, though, I never hear him say, could it be us? I never hear him say that. And I think it is us. I think that these balls of plasma are us flying around. And so I just find that a little bit odd with respect to John Ramirez. Now, let's take a look at it. We're going to skip ahead right here, guys. And we're going to go straight to 48 minutes. I've got my timestamp set up here. We've got like 10 clips to go through here. But before we get to that, I do want to just show this. I think he shows the history of it right here. The history of the various agencies. What's going on here, man? There we go. It is really interesting when you look at the history of these agencies. These are the most powerful 5 agencies out there. Number 1 is the CIA. CIA is the first one of the big 5. The big 5 is what they call them. Actually, I maybe just made that up. The agency, 1947 CIA, 1952 NSA, National Security Agency, 1960 NRO, National Reconnaissance Office, 1961 Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA. And then lastly, 2003, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGA. There we go. Hey, whoever just posted this, Zapparoo, stop spoiling it, bro. Stop spoiling the future. That's one of my next clips coming up here, bro. Chill out. Okay, hold up. Guys, there's going to be a couple Yahtzee moments. Let's skip ahead here. So where are they located? Guys, you guys know where the main hotspot is. Somebody in the chat tell me. Guys, randomly just shout out the location of a secret military base location where they do a lot of advanced research, guys. Where do you think? Space Juice City, USA, baby. Space Juice, USA. Huntsville, Alabama. Okay, where is it? I'm just going to let this play here.
Against all of those other 5 intelligence disciplines from space. Now, there are also science and technology intelligence centers. You know the one at the bottom, NASIC, but let's go through all of them. First one on the list is MISIC, and they're in Huntsville, Alabama. and they're part of the DIA. In Huntsville, Alabama, Redstone Arsenal, as you know, is the location where the German rocket scientists went. Werner von Braun had an office there with the Marshall Space Flight Center in the Redstone Arsenal. The National Ground Intelligence Center, we call it NGIC, their headquarters is in Charlottesville, Virginia. And of interest to some of you might be the fact that they are also the intelligence center for underground facilities.
Wow.
We've all heard of ONI, but in the intelligence community.
What's the context here? First of all, wow. This interview, guys, if you haven't watched this interview, I do recommend you check it out. Wealth of information. What he's trying to explain to people is that if you want your FOIA requests to get responded to be successful, you need to FOIA the right agency. You can't just FOIA the CIA and say, hey, give me the secret data. They don't have the surveillance data. What he tells us in this interview repeatedly is that everything is really compartmentalized and segmented. Each agency focuses on a specific task. So like the CIA does a lot of human intelligence, interviews, things like that. If you want interviews, you can go to the CIA. And what he's saying here in this is he's saying the NGIC, they do all the underground stuff. The Maritime Intelligence Center, they're going to handle all your underwater UFOs, your USOs, as they call them. That's their new term they have, underwater submersible object. They're all just UFOs, but you get the point.
We know them as NMIC, the National Maritime Intelligence Center. They're located in Suitland, Maryland. And of interest to UAP researchers, they're the intelligence center with responsibility for undersea weapons and facilities. And so NASIC had many names over the years. During the Roswell era, it was called T2 Intelligence. And they changed names. Most people know them as FTD, Foreign Technology Division. And there were several names up to the National Air and Space Intelligence Center. We call it NASIC. And of course, they're located in Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Huh. So that one at the bottom, that's my most interested one, probably. National Air and Space Intelligence Center, NASIC, U.S. Air Force, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Dayton, Ohio. It's about to get pretty spicy here, guys, because what we're about to learn in a few minutes is that the CIA can call upon the military. The DOD can call upon the military for covert operations. Does that sound familiar to anybody out there in the chat? The DOD can call upon the military for covert operations. We're looking at Gorgon Stare wide area motion imagery that's owned by the Air Force. And we're watching clearly a covert operation on MH370 that would have had to have been conducted by the CIA that has military assets being used, including 2 MQ-9 drones. That's why when I watch this, either John Ramirez is literally doing this to send me weird messages, or John Ramirez just wants the UFO community to know how this works. But the thing is, and before people say, Ashton, your ego is too high, there's no way John Ramirez would ever send you a message directly. Let me just tell you the story about John Ramirez's first post on Twitter ever. John Ramirez's first post on Twitter ever was directed at me. In his first post on Twitter ever, randomly, John Ramirez says that USA 229, which was the satellite pair, 2 satellites, that I had assumed must be taking the MH370 video that was called Satellite Video Airliner and UFOs. His first post on Twitter was to say that USA 229 does not have surveillance capabilities. Yes. You guys didn't know this story? I don't think I've ever said this. I don't think you guys knew this. So yes. And what was crazy about it was 2 days later, this was probably the same day Ross Coulthart attacked me on on TV. The same day. John Ramirez makes his first Twitter post ever and says, USA 229 doesn't have like surveillance capability. And I saw it and I went, whoa, that's weird, bro. Because I mean, he's clearly talking. I'm the only person on the planet talking about USA 229. The only person on the planet. I've been going on podcasts talking about it. And so why would John Ramirez post that? Clearly, he's watching my content. Clearly, right? But he's never mentioned me before. He's never reached out to me. He's never replied to an email or anything like that. And then what was crazy was later that week, like 2 days later, I find out that it's actually a drone. It's not satellite. It's Gorgon Stare on a drone above the plane. So that increased my reliability in John Ramirez significantly. Significantly. Because what it tells me is that John Ramirez is trying to get information out to the public. He's a white hat. John Ramirez is a white hat that is pushing the boundary as far as he can while not breaking his NDAs. Even in the beginning of this interview, he says that this whole PowerPoint that we're looking at here has been cleared by the CIA. Anything that he presents, he has to get cleared by the CIA. And if they didn't remove something from this PowerPoint, then it's fine to talk about. So pretty weird, right? So now you guys, I'm surprised you guys didn't know about that story. If you don't believe me, go look up his Twitter. You'll see his very first post on Twitter was about USA 229, which was clearly directed at me. Okay, here we go. So, okay, so we're going to skip ahead a few minutes here. We're going to go to 53. Here we go. And here he talks about how to FOIA the people. So here you go.
Phenomenon being created. Also, it may have been a news item in the local television or print media, or people may have taken pictures of it and posted it to social media. So that's an OSINT type of intelligence gathering. Something I haven't heard too much about, but I find intriguing, is whether electromagnetic data may have emanated or still emanating from a crop circle. So who would have that information? It would be NSA. And of course, DIA, everyone knows now that they collect radiological, biochemical, spectral, sonic data, all of the above that doesn't fit human OSINT and SIGINT. And the DIA scientists, as we now know, were deployed to Skinwalker Ranch with their sensors, collecting for DIA MASINT. And NGA, of course, collects optical photography and electro-optical, and that includes infrared and ultraviolet.
So, wow. This slide right here was very revealing for me. Keep in mind, I'm somebody that knew nothing about how the CIA operated. I've been trying to FOIA people about MH370, and I've gotten like no responses. And now I know why my CIA responses were all rejected. In fact, the best CIA request I put in was the one about the fire extinguishing device, the fire bottle, whatever it's called, fire extinguishing bottle that was found in the Maldives. And the CIA responded and said that they can't confirm or deny any evidence around the Boeing 777 fire extinguishing bottle that was found in the Maldives. Why? Because that would have been OSINT, or human intelligence. Because a report about a fire suppression bottle that shows up, that will show up in the CIA's list. But visual footage, the videos themselves are not operated by the CIA. The videos themselves are geointelligence. Yes, thank you very much, Zapparoo. They're geointelligence. So if we are going to FOIA the MH370 videos, we have to be FOIAing the NGA. Spoiler alert, I'm FOIAing the NGA, chat. I'm getting those fucking videos, guys. So, dear U.S. government, I'm about to crash out right now. I'm going to prove what you did to MH370. I know what you did to MH370, and all I need is the proof. All I need is a text message, an email, a document, anything. And I know it exists. I know that you have incriminating evidence because I'm staring at 2 leaked military videos on the internet. So, also interestingly enough, I did not know that the DIA was about radiological material. So for crash retrievals, if we were actually collecting alien crash retrievals or whatever bullshit, the DIA would probably be the one that would have that information, right? You look at all these lists here, and if interviews were conducted, the CIA would probably have it. If there's like cell phone calls, the NSA is going to have the cell phone calls. If there's actual physical material, it's going to be the DIA. And then if there's video, electro-optical, then it's going to be the NGA. Pretty awesome. So I got to be honest, guys, already, this interview has already been worth it for me. Just if that was all I gained from this interview, successful. But there's more. Let's keep it rolling.
So sending FOI requests to these agencies tailored to what you want to know about that crop circle makes a lot more sense than just sending it to just one agency who may not have the purview to have these intelligence disciplines under its roof.
Okay.
We talked a little about NGA, and I want to talk.
This is my favorite part, chat. Here you go. Who said Maxar? Who said Maxar? Was that you, Zapparoo? Was that you that said Maxar? What does this say right at the top of this slide right here? What does that say? Maxar Technologies, formerly Digital Globe. We're about to learn more about satellite surveillance than most people know. Here you go.
About commercial imagery, because commercial imagery isn't utilized enough. Of course, we all use Google Maps, Google Earth. A lot of people don't know that Google Earth was originally a CIA application given to Google. It was called Earth Viewer. And so Google adapted it for its.
And there you have it, chat. Google Earth was originally CIA. Boom. Now do we wonder why we have this Gorgon stare drone capability? Because the fucking CIA wanted to be able to run covert operations just like they do in the movie Enemy of the State. Quite literally, that's why they made Gorgon stare. The CIA saw the movie Enemy of the State with Gene Hackman and Will Smith, where the government's got satellites everywhere, tracking people, recording, rewinding, fast-forwarding everything, making sure that they can find you anywhere they want. And they were literally building it. And then they thought, you know what? Satellites aren't going to work. Too complicated to make satellites work. Instead, let's just fly a drone up in the sky, and the drone will just circle around. And it'll just take a whole bunch of pictures all the time. And then we can do the same thing. And that's how we got Palantir. That's the origin story of Palantir, chat. I'm kidding, but not really. It kind of is the origin story of Palantir. No, but that's the origin story of Gorgon stare wide area motion imagery. Now I'm going to let the man continue because this is my favorite part.
Data. Now, Google does not own any satellites. The owner of Google satellites is Maxar Technologies. Formerly, it was called Digital Globe. They're located in Westminster, Colorado, near Boulder. The first two satellites were actually NRO satellites transferred to a commercial company. And it was an older satellite technology, so the quality of the image was nowhere.
Okay, there's already so many things to talk about. This is just such a rich couple of paragraphs he says here. He says, Google doesn't own any satellites. Google actually got all of their Google Earth data from third-party companies like Maxar. And where did Maxar get their satellites from? Was anybody listening right there? Where was Maxar getting their satellites from? Oh, they were getting their satellites from the NRO. They're getting their satellites from the government. Chat, we are literally slaves. We are literally living on a prison planet right now. And I don't know how people don't realize it, but quite literally, it's the left hand feeding the right hand here. And everything goes back to daddy government. So just to recap, Google doesn't have any of their own satellites. They go to a company called Maxar. Maxar got their satellites from the NRO, the National Reconnaissance Office. So basically, we, the military, the intelligence community, gave our shittiest satellites to commercial companies. We gave our shittiest satellites to the commercial companies and said, here you go make us a spy thing. Well, what does that imply? That implies that we have way better surveillance than what Google Earth could do. And I'm going to be honest, Google Earth was already pretty impressive. In fact, Google Earth existing is how I was able to figure out what the MH370 videos are. Because when you watch the Gorgon stare footage, you can see them moving the screen around. Again, it's not like the camera is moving, the screen is moving. Just like if I was on Google Earth, moving the screen around on Google Earth. It's just like that. And that was the biggest tell that what we were looking at was legitimate military surveillance. Because once again, Google Earth was literally developed by the CIA. Okay, here we go.
We're near what we call national technical means imagery, but it was very, very good. Now, the government allows 25 centimeters per pixel. That is the pixel resolution from about 383 miles up. And that's pretty fascinating because what that means is if these commercial satellites wanted to do it, you can take a piece of paper, 9.8 by 9.8 inches or 25 centimeters per side, and you can lay them all out and put objects on them that covers up the paper. And from 383 feet, they can measure those objects. And that's quite the resolution up there. But usually they use 30 centimeter per pixel resolution because that's the limit of what the commercial satellite companies are launching at this time. There was a time when Maxar thought that they could do their own satellites and not rely on NRO for assistance. Worldview 4 was their standalone satellite with no government help, and that failed in orbit a few years after it was launched. So now they're going back with Worldview Legion in 2022 as they retire the older satellites. So we'll have 6 brand new satellites up in the 2020s, and likely they will have more NRO input to get those satellites working.
Wow. Wow. Boom. Mind blown, chat. I love learning about this shit. My favorite things on this planet are nuclear weapons, secret spy surveillance, and dunking on Redditors. Those are my 3 favorites in no particular order. Probably dunking on Redditors is number 1, actually. Wow. So not only did the government have to give satellites to Maxar, they tried to send their own satellites into space and they failed. They blew up. So what did we just learn? We learned that anybody that wants to send satellites into outer space is basically beholden to the government. No wonder Elon Musk has never mentioned the MH370 videos. The chance of Elon Musk actually knowing is actually increasing a little bit right now. Because if Elon Musk is sending satellites into outer space, he probably has an NDA that says he can't talk about the MH370 videos, even if they have a chance of being real. Even if there's just a chance of being real, he can't talk about them either. So the government owns all the satellites, or at least controls the satellites. The people that try to send satellites into space, if you don't get permission from the government, your satellite just kind of crashes. I'm not saying it's nefarious. Don't at me, conspiratards. I'm just saying it turns out that you have people that do not go through the government have really bad luck. And it kind of makes sense because we have to keep track of where all those satellites are so that none of the satellites have paths that overlap so they never crash into each other. And yes, space is very big, but there's also an increasing amount of satellites up there that are flying around. So I thought that revelation was really interesting there. And there's another part of it. The United States government only allows satellites to be so powerful. If they're look, like, why does this even exist? This part right here says U.S. government allows 25 centimeters per pixel. Why is there a limit at all? Why is there a limit on satellite resolution? Interesting. Almost as if the government has much better resolution and we don't want to allow it because we want to have the advantage. Right? in the real world, there's not a real limit on how far you can make your resolution other than the focal length, which we can also bypass using plasma. So this implies that the government definitely has better technology than commercial satellites, significantly better. So what I would say is that if we are trying to understand where the military is at right now with surveillance, where they're at right now with surveillance, then it would not actually surprise me if they have Gorgon stare capability on satellites now. Now, in 2014, it seems like they didn't have it, despite the fact that I used to think that they might. But nowadays, I mean, this is 2025. So we had Gorgon stare. Gorgon stare is now obsolete. Sierra Nevada Corporation deleted Gorgon stare from their website after we exposed them. So they could even have at this point satellites that are basically doing the equivalent of what Gorgon stare was doing. And all you would need to pull that off is just more satellites. You would just need a bunch of satellites so that when one leaves an area, the next one is flowing. Okay, let's go to the next part. I want to see, did he talk about this? Okay, I think he talks about it here in a minute. I may just kind of skip through it. But another thing that he says is he talks about the angle. Actually, I think I kind of want to hear him say it. I don't want to hear him say it. Here we go.
Now, if you follow my cursor
Watch
here,
this.
This is where you get the most detailed imagery. It's straight down. We call this nadir, straight from the telescope right down to the Earth, straight, perfect, perpendicular to the Earth. That is the most useless imagery you can collect because it doesn't do any good to look at the roof of the building. You want to be able to measure the building, how high it is and how wide it is. So most of the time we look over here, not straight down. So we get an angle to whatever object we're looking at. Now out here, the imagery is very poor. And that's what you see on Google Earth. Very poor imagery, like a meter pixel resolution, whereas the actual capability is like a third of a meter, 30 centimeters. Now, wouldn't it be great to be able to get on Google Earth and be able to see what your house looks like right there and walk outside and see yourself waving at the satellite? Can't do that because what Google supplies is historic data, a snapshot in time that may have been taken a year ago.
So, what did we just learn right there? What did we learn just there? When we're taking imagery, the most useless data is straight down. Remember, everyone assumed that all satellite video should be straight down. That's what they assumed. And what does he say? He says the best footage is from an angle. From an angle. Indeed, it's from an angle. Why? Because you can see the profile of the object. If you are looking straight down, then it's like looking at the top of a car. You want to look at it from an angle so you can see the size, the trajectory of the object, so that you can see how it's moving through three-dimensional space. And this further explains the Gorgon stare footage. No wonder they're using the Gorgon stare footage to monitor the plane. That's clearly an operation, and they're clearly using the Gorgon stare footage to track the plane. That's why the Gorgon stare footage is at an angle. In fact, I think this is a good time to just show the Gorgon stare footage again, since we keep talking about it so much. By the way, it's pretty cool that we can just talk about classified military footage and we have plausible deniability and nobody can do anything against us. Pretty neat. Have you ever seen a screen move around before? No, you haven't. Because there's no such thing as fake Gorgon stare videos. In fact, there's never been a fake video that looks anything like this before. Never, ever. Because it's real video. If you don't understand this video is real, then you're probably not very good at discerning fact from fiction. There are literal coordinates down here. It says NROL 22. That's the real relay satellite. What are the odds that a hoaxer is going to put a real relay satellite in the bottom left corner that says NROL 22? That's USA 184. USA 184 is really a relay satellite. Like 100% confirmed. It's got a millennia orbit for relay satellite. We're looking at an angle because the drone is not directly above the plane. It's loitering around. Anyway, and best part, the video is still playing right now. Why is part of the video black. Why is it just black? Why is the video still playing right now? Oh, because at the end of the screen, at the end of the video, you can see the mouse cursor. The mouse cursor goes and closes the window. Let's play it again. Look, everybody. Hey, look, guys. Where's the mouse cursor? There it is. Look at that mouse cursor. Look at that. Goes off the screen, closes the window, black screen. Amazing, guys. I do predict that I will one day be one of the most famous people on the planet when people finally realize that those videos are real. And just to be clear, because I don't think I've clearly not said this enough. I will not be, I know what's going to happen. People are going to admit the videos are real and they're going to say, okay, the videos are real, but you were a dickhead, Ashton. You were mean to me, so I didn't listen to you. You hurt my feelings, so I didn't listen to you. And they're going to say, it's so mean of you to be mean to us now that we literally were pieces of shit to you for years. Literally running disinformation ops against me. I've got YouTubers with millions of followers posting fake videos about me. I've got people trying to discredit the videos. I got people literally assigned to me 24/7 to review every single post I make and spread it around and try to come up with counter narratives. These are all true things. And then they're going to say they want me to be nice to them. They're going to want me to show grace to those people that have been attacking me for years after I get proven right. That will never happen. Just as I am INX just said here, it's a cruel world. And I am not going to be nice to the people later on that have been attacking me. I'm not going to be nice to anybody who is not a supporter of mine. Anybody who didn't believe the videos were real. Anybody even like Scott Horton who's pretending to know about H-bombs. I'm not going to show these people any grace in the future. None. And I'm not. And when people demand I show people grace, I'm going to laugh in their face. I'm going to drag all of these people, the Redditors, the woke right people, the fake libertarians, the revisionist history people. I'm going to drag all of them. I'm going to discredit all of them. I'm going to make sure the world knows that these people are all grifters that have no fucking clue what they're talking about. And they never, ever have. And you sit there and you listen to them every day, absorbing information from them, and it's all bullshit. That's the lesson I'm going to teach people. And I'm going to do it in the harshest, meanest way that is possible. And I don't care how it makes people feel. So are we all clear on that in the future? Great. And remember, I called it out. I told you what they were going to do. I told you what their excuse is going to be. Their excuse is going to be, okay, you were right, but I didn't listen to you because you were mean to me. There's going to be some version of that. Right? That's what it's going to be. You were right, but nobody cares that you were right because blah, blah, blah. Look, I get it. You're pieces of shit. You were wrong and you couldn't admit it. Don't ask for faith. Don't ask for grace. Don't ask for mercy later on. Okay. Next thing. That's enough of me ranting, chat. Here we go. Energy orbs time. It's time for energy orbs. Now, this is the reason why John Ramirez kind of susses me out, chat. Susses me out, but kind of in a good way. Here we go. So, hypothetical scenario, he says. John Ramirez, hypothetical scenario. Are you ready for this? Here's the hypothetical scenario from John Ramirez. For no reason. No reason, chat. He just made this scenario up. Hypothetical scenario. NGA analysts discover numerous light energy orbs under intelligent control in frames of imagery. How would the intelligence community respond? IC analysts rule out adversarial technology. NGA's engineers conduct system checks of imagery analysis systems, confirm that there's no that everything's working appropriately. And then lastly, NGA briefs the NRO GeoInt program manager, and then the NRO conducts system checks of the imaging systems, confirming everything is operational. So, why the hell is John Ramirez constantly talking about energy orbs? Why is that the example? This is the same example he brought up in the first interview. In the first interview, he goes, let me just give you an example. let's just imagine that somebody is looking at some surveillance and now they see orbs of energy. You're like, what? Bro, that's really oddly specific, man. Especially because we're looking at orbs of energy spinning around MH370, acting as the non-fission thermonuclear trigger, right? How would he even know about all these orbs of energy unless he knew that they existed? So let's listen to what he has to say.
Can routinely fly between 85 to 100,000 feet and broke the altitude record at 123,000 feet. That's pretty high. Could it be that with a stealth plasma stealth generator? And no, it could not, because we know, when they were in flight, and it did not conform to the events of these energy orbs. So we can rule that out as a cause of these orbs to be seen. So if it's not anything that is adversary technology, then we have to look on the ground and see if the software might have been malfunctioning. And the software was confirmed to be working within specifications. So, okay, what's next? Well, how about the spacecraft itself? How about the birds? We call spacecraft birds. How about the birds themselves? Are they working? And the birds were all functioning fine, according to NRO. NRO is responsible for the care and feeding of the birds in orbit, and everything checked out fine. So now we have an interesting situation here. So the NGA and NRO reforms the DNI about what's going on up there. That's very unusual. And so the DNI decides we need to take a deeper dive into this. Let's examine what's going on here. So the DNI authorizes the establishment of a working group and also establishes a compartment to control dissemination.
Okay, this is kind of boring.
They study this.
We already watched this part. I do have to point out there's some great jokes going on in the chat right now. We're talking about Avatar, The Last Airbender. I've literally never seen the show before. I will say I do know that the new Magic card set is all based on Avatar, and I've been trying to study up, so I'm ready for the new set because I am a big nerd. I do have Magic cards here behind me. Yes, magnetohydrodynamics is basically like water bending. So for all my millennial nerds in the chat, my anime lovers, etc. So basically, when you want to think about magnetohydrodynamics, it's basically just water bending, but you're basically plasma bending, chat. Shit, chat. Here we go. I'm Avatar the Plasma Bender, Ashton the Demon 4 Orbs, aka the Plasma Bender. Woo, chat. Look at me building new nicknames right here. Plasma bending, brand new avatar capability, chat. I don't even know if they have those capabilities, but I hear there's a metal bending. Why can't there be a plasma bending? There you go. So yes, plasma bending is technically an offshoot of water bending. Same idea in your head, right? Bend the water around, make it flow around, make it do vortexes and spins and things like that. There you go. Okay, the next clip is about subject matter experts. Actually, it was only like 30 seconds further on than this one. Where is it? Here we go.
Or internal agency working group and read in their own subject matter experts. And so now they gather all the subject matter experts together along with contractors, and they're the usual contractors that you are aware of, like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon. These are the big four. They read in their scientists and engineers, and they all meet together. And they'll invite all the concerned parties together to study the phenomenon. And more collection might be tasks. Let's collect more data and see what's going on. The objective is to reach some kind of consensus and write a report for the DNI. They owe the report to the DNI since they brought it up to the DNI.
Okay, I've seen enough. There's no way in hell the United States government doesn't know what the UFOs are. John Ramirez just laid it out for us. John Ramirez is like, okay, look, we see something weird in our imagery. It's going to issue a report. It's going to go to the NRO. They're going to start pulling in the NGA. They're going to have defense contractor experts and subject matter experts get pulled in. Everybody's going to sign a bunch of NDAs. And they're going to write a report about what they think it is. And then that's going to go up the line. Okay. No chance that the government doesn't know what UFOs are then. You don't want to know how I know that? Look at the names of the companies here. Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon. Well, we know who those engineers are, chat. Where did Gary Stevenson work for most of his life? Oh, Boeing. He's a literal Boeing engineer that does gravity research. and he was literally at one of the Jasons with Robert M.L. Baker. I don't know which contractors Eric W. Davis and Hal Puthoff have worked for. My guess is it's all of them. My guess is Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff have worked for all the defense contractors. So when they're pulling in those experts from the defense contractors, that's when they call up Hal Puthoff. That's when they're like, hey, speed dial my boy Poot Poot. Yo, Poot Poot, where you at, bro? We got some UFOs we need some explanations on. You said you don't know about aneutronic fusion and 0-point energy? What is this, Yoda? You don't know about the Force anymore? Come on, get over here. We need you to understand some UFOs. That's what they do. And then Hal Puthoff comes running, and he says, ooh, we got some UFOs going on here. Definitely not nuclear technology. Don't look at that. Don't look at that. So I just thought this was interesting because it tells us how the intelligence community operates. How do they actually work? How do they actually like do analysis? And once we've learned that they do that level of in-depth analysis, including bringing outside experts in, there's no way they don't know what the UFOs are. They have to have at minimum a very good idea. Yeah, Paul Sizz would have been one of the people too. Basically, all the Black Project engineers on the tier list that I did, those are the people that they'd be calling in. So no wonder when these people are now talking about the UFO phenomenon, because they've been brought in, they've seen stuff, they've been told to analyze things that defy conventional understanding. And in some cases, they might have built some of this stuff. They might have built some of this stuff, guys. Okay. Here's another piece of information. There's a lot of good tidbits in here. Here we go. How does the intelligence community operate? Wait, what? I think somewhere around here. I think. Here we go.
And so they offer policy recommendations to the president, but it's based on data. And
oh, wait, hold on. I went too far. Let's go like right about here.
So the DNI briefs the president and offers decision levers. It's important to understand that the intelligence community never, ever makes policy.
Okay. That is another huge, huge point. The difference between me when I do research and a lot of these talking heads out there, a lot of the talking heads you see, they don't know shit about shit. They don't know anything about anything. They're just plain pretend. When I do it, we listen to the GS-15 CIA agents. What did he say right there? Intelligence community never issues policy. The only person that does the policy is the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief. What does that mean? That means President Barack Obama knew about MH370. No question, no doubt. Former President Barack Obama knows what we did to MH370. Even if he somehow was not involved in building the operation, which is practically impossible. The guy was president from 2008 to 2016, and the plane disappeared in 2014. The plane disappears 6 years into his presidency, in his second term. Of course, he knew the CIA was running a covert operation. But even if he didn't know, even if we gave him the benefit of the doubt, after the fact, when now we have to like do some kind of weird cover up, the president would have been the one that makes the decision. The intelligence community would have come to President Barack Obama. They would have said, hey, B.O., hey, B-Rock. They would have said, we got a bit of a problem on our hands. They would have said, well, we kind of zapped this Boeing 777 with a thermonuclear weapon, and we need you now to smooth it over with Malaysia. Here are the options. Option number 1, we make up a fake cover story. Option number 2, we say nothing. Option number 3, we press Malaysia to take the guilt. And that's what we did. What we did was we told Malaysia, you're going to lie for us. People always ask me this, or they tell me, they criticize me, and they say, Ashton, Why are you pushing the government narrative on this one thing that's completely different than this other thing? And first of all, because things that are different don't require the same exact response, number one. Number two, the United States never actually lied about MH370. They just never said anything. Do you guys get the difference? When there's a real cover-up, people are terrified to say anything on the record because anything they say on the record could later on be proven to be false. So when they do a cover-up, what they do is they say nothing. Radio silence. Radio silence. And instead, we made Malaysia do the lying. We made the Malaysian prime minister claim that the plane went down in the South Indian Ocean with no evidence whatsoever. No evidence whatsoever the plane went down in the South Indian Ocean. Not one shred of the plane was found down there. And we made him lie. And how did we make him lie? Because we had dirt on him. Because it turns out we knew that he was stealing hundreds of millions of dollars. We knew the Prime Minister of Malaysia was stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from a fund that he shouldn't have been stealing from. And all we had to do was say, you either lie for us, or we expose your kleptocracy. We expose your corruption. Turns out we exposed the corruption a year later anyway, and he went to prison. Yes, the Prime Minister of Malaysia that we forced to lie went to prison. That's a 100% factual statement. And he went for prison for corruption. So that's what we did. We made them lie. So I just think that this slide is super interesting because what you have to understand, anybody that's talking about conspiracies and the CIA and all this shit, which everybody talks about all the time, none of them know how any of this stuff works. The only person that makes policy is the president and the White House. The intelligence community do not make policy. So when people are talking about, oh, the CIA and the Mossad are controlling the government, I mean, you can kind of stretch the definition, but in reality, the person that makes the policy is the president. President Trump is the one making the policies. The CIA is not making policies that the president has to act upon. They give them options, and then the president chooses the option that they want to take. So that may be a distinction without a difference, but it's important to understand.
Only the president makes policy. And so they offer policy recommendations to the president, but it's based on data and informed by analysis. So decision lever one, I threw three of them together, three that made sense. Well, first is to observe, but continue active collection and analysis. This is a very passive stance. Just keep watching and see what happens. The second is to engage the phenomena in some way, but don't threaten it. That is, let's fly something toward it or do something perhaps to attract its attention, but don't make it feel like it's in danger. We're just trying to see what reaction might come by engaging this phenomenon. And the third is very dangerous because it's not only engaging a phenomenon, but provoking a reaction. And provoking in the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2022 that left the House and it's on its way to the Senate. There's a provision in there for this UAP office within the Pentagon to report on efforts to capture a UAP. When you tell the Department of Defense that you're interested in capturing a UAP and you want reports on progress for capturing a UAP, it gives the Department of Defense the idea that it's a kinetic response. And so that's decision number three, provoke a reaction. And I don't recommend shooting anything.
Okay, we got a bunch more clips, so we're gonna have to kind of skip through some of this here and go a little bit faster because I'm being long-winded as I usually am. Okay, so we now know that the intelligence community never makes policy. The president does the policy. This directly, implicates President Barack Obama and MH370, and probably some other war crimes as well. So let's look at a little bit at clearances. So if I skip ahead a little bit here, there are clearances above top secret.
At the feasibility of DNA storing data.
I skipped over some of this MK Ultra and biology stuff. If you're interested in that, you can check it out. Thank you for reposting the stream, guys, by the way.
Let's look at some classifications. Above top secret, there's nothing really above top secret. It's all top secret. But there are compartments that are so narrow and so limited as to who's read into them that for all intents and purposes, they might as well be above top secret, because just having a top secret clearance does not necessarily qualify you to have that information. The one that I know related to Bob Fisher again is crypto, the crypto clearance. He claims to have had an above top secret clearance. What he really meant to say is, I had a top secret crypto clearance. Not many people have that. So that's an example of a so-called above top secret clearance. And if you look at FOIAs, you'll see an alphabet soup of markings. The most common one is SITK no foreign. Top secret is obvious. Special intelligence is communications intelligence, or SIGINT. Talent keyhole. Talent is ISR, is airborne sensors. Keyhole is space-based sensors. The keyhole, why keyhole? Well, the pattern that the satellites make over the Earth.
So the point of this one, I'm just going to skip a little bit past this, is that there are multiple clearance types. Like top secret is the top, but then it gets compartmentalized after top secret. And he's saying, okay, you need keyhole clearance if you want to have ISR capability. There are labels for no foreign as well. No foreign does not mean no fornication for my incels out there. No foreign means that you can't share that information with foreign allies. So this means that a lot of the information that might be no foreign, that means that we're keeping it internally. So for all the people out there that are going, Israel controls you, they control blah, blah, blah. There's certain stuff we don't share with them. Presumably we share whatever weapons we develop together. But keep in mind that we're also trying to keep this information from even our allies, because our allies might leak the information out as well.
It's very much like an hourglass, except the very top of that hourglass is very narrow ellipse, and the bottom of that hourglass is a much longer ellipse, slightly wider. So it reminded NRO of keyholes. So therefore, they named that program Keyhole, that compartment Keyhole. No foreign means no foreign, and that means not even to Five Eyes. The British...
not even to Five Eyes. No foreign means that not even the Five Eyes get to see that information.
UFO files were labeled UK only, no foreign, which means that the British did not share its files with the US government. It kept those files to itself until they were formally released.
So even the British government was keeping their UFO files secret from us. So even people that are allies are keeping this nuclear weapon technology and secrets secret from each other, which totally makes sense. Because you are trying to, if you are trying to make sure that something doesn't leak, you need nobody to know about it. Not even your allies. Not even our top allies can know about this technology. That's pretty scary, man. That's pretty scary to me. I don't know about you guys. Okay, now we're going to get into some of the alien stuff. For the people that are always saying, oh, you're talking about aliens. I literally never talk about aliens, but you know what? We're going to talk about aliens. Here you go.
Stuff here. Russia has had space forces for a long time. It's part of the Russian Aerospace Forces. I found an interesting quote from a Russian officer, Sergei Brezhnev. And he said, we are unfortunately not ready to fight extraterrestrial civilizations. And he said that in all seriousness to a question posed by Russian media. And that's his position. So I should have sourced that one, but it's an interesting quote from some.
What? What did he just say? Let me put my glasses back on. I feel like I was unable to read that. Let me go full boomer here and make sure I'm reading that properly. Direct quote. We are unfortunately not ready to fight extraterrestrial civilizations. Okay. Wow. The reason why that kind of, I mean, most of you are probably going, okay, that's crazy, bro. You're going, that's crazy. That's nuts, right? And I'm kind of with you on that. The reason why it gives me pause, two reasons. Number one, there certainly could be aliens out there that have super advanced technology. In fact, we are definitely primitives that are basically the equivalent of monkeys in the jungle, while the aliens are flying around on gravity wave devices, right? The other thing that gives me pause is that Salvatore Pais also implied this multiple times. I think it was our second interview, maybe the third interview, could be wrong, where he talks about human technology. He says, I believe in human technology. Actually, I think it was his leaked, the letter that he asked Dave to post and read out loud. I believe in human technology. That almost implied that we're developing this technology, these super nukes, these warp nukes, 0-point energy weapons, whatever the hell you want to call them. We're developing these weapons because at some point we're preparing for an intergalactic battle. We're preparing for the aliens to teleport out of nowhere, appear in front of us, and we're going to zap them with thermonuclear weapons. That may sound crazy as shit to you guys. It kind of sounds pretty crazy to me when I say it out loud, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. I'd say it's extremely low likelihood, but you could see just in a hypothetical scenario where we have been, let's say we see these energy orbs flying around. We do one of these investigations and they go, it's not China, it's not Russia, it's got to be something else. Maybe it's the Atlanteans. Maybe it's a civilization from somewhere else. How would the military respond to that? We know how they would respond, guys. Come on, use our heads. They would go and try to build something that can fight the aliens. How would we respond if we see some alien flying? We're going to try to figure out how to take them down. Guys, it's the whole plot of Independence Day. The whole plot of Independence Day. The aliens show up. First thing we do is figure out how to make a virus that kills them all. That's what we would do. We would try to figure out what kind of weapons work on them. What are they weak against? How do we beat them if they show up in mass numbers to wipe us out? And the reality is we would have no chance. We'd have no chance at all. They could just zap our planet away in a black hole if they wanted to, but that wouldn't stop us. We would still try to build countermeasures 100%. So that's why this quote kind of freaked me out a little bit. Because the other thing is that it's not just us that knows. China and Russia also have intelligence apparatus. I don't personally believe they have the type of weapons that we have, but they're catching up. And so if we know about UFOs, the aliens, that China and Russia knows about the aliens and the UFOs as well. And we might all be trying to do the same thing. You could even imagine a scenario where like the aliens came from underwater, like Terror from the Deep, XCOM Terror from the Deep. Crab people, crab people. The aliens come out and then everybody just freaks out. Everybody's like, oh shit, chat. They're going, we got we got lobster aliens coming out from the oceans. And then so Putin and Z and Trump or Obama, whoever, meet together, not Biden. They all meet up and they're like, yeah, we gotta hide this. We got to be quiet about this. We got to all build up super advanced weapons so we can fight the Atlanteans, the lobster people Atlanteans. So even if it's insane, which it definitely is, I could see a scenario where it happens, where it's real. Okay, the next thing. Here's the thing about the combat support agencies.
Agencies for Department of Defense needs, because they're also...
Hold on, I was like 2 seconds too far there. Go back like 10 seconds, John Ramirez.
Support agencies. So the Secretary of Defense can marshal resources.
Excuse me, Mr. Ramirez. It's not the Secretary of Defense anymore. It's the Secretary of War. Please get it right. His name's Pete Hegseth, and he's kind of a Minnesota Vikings fan, so I'm kind of fanboying about him quite a lot. Please respect the man's title, Secretary of War, not Secretary of Defense. Anyway, let's go on.
From these agencies for Department of Defense needs, because there are also combat support agencies. And there's certain, I've seen certain FOIAs released where they mention combat support agencies without really mentioning who those agencies are. So I just told you that it's those 4 agencies and that are IC as well as military agencies. If they're supporting the Department of Defense, they're combat support agencies.
There we go. Combat support agencies. Yes, these people are not putting any respect on Pete Hegseth's name as Department of War. Really upsets me.
NSA actually automatically broke it out as NSA and CSS. You might see CSS. The CSS part combat is the service cryptologic elements, the Central Security Service. These are the uniformed members of the armed forces working at NSA. So that's the military side of NSA. Recently, I saw what purports to be a memorandum for the record from NRO, Central Security Services, and this is the memorandum for the record, allegedly that was seen, which prompted Admiral Wilson to seek out.
Okay, that's getting too confusing for me. We got a few more clips. Okay, the next one, domes of light. Here you go.
Reach across the ocean. It was not an ICBM. It could not have touched the U.S., but our allies would have been at risk. So every time the Russians, well, not every time, but many times when the Russians would test the SS-20 Sabre, here comes these domes of light also appearing. Now, NASIC's predecessor, FTD, they still stuck with the fact that, according to them, they thought the dome of light could be a missile countermeasure to obscure the numbers and trajectories of a Soviet nuclear missile attack. And the dome of light was used by Senator Jesse Helms of North Carolina. He actually used the phrase dome of light in a comment he made.
Dome of light, chat. Dome of light. Sound familiar? Sounds a lot like some Tom Bearden. Tonight's moment of Zen is going to be a Tom Bearden clip, by the way, guys. I've got it ready to go. That just reminded me, actually. Domes of light, and now he's connecting it to intercontinental ballistic missile weapons tests. This is the part where I look at this and I go, John Ramirez knows more than what he's saying here. I think John Ramirez knows more than what he's saying. And I mean, he admitted this is just the declassified version. The moment they're starting talking about linking this to weapons tests, he says the Soviet scientists and U.S. missile analysts observed that these domes seem to have some coincidental association with test launches of the SS-20 Sabre, intermediate range ballistic missile. Missile analysts at the then Foreign Technology Division believed that the domes of light could be a countermeasure to obscure the numbers and trajectories of a Soviet nuclear missile attack, directly connecting these domes of light to nuclear weapons. I actually can't even comprehend how more people have not figured out the secret of nuclear weapons. And the first giveaway should be that we banned nuclear weapon testing right after Ripple, right after we developed super powerful clean fusion bombs. We banned nuclear weapon testing. That's like literally what you do. And when you figured something out, when you play in a video game, I'm a video game master. When you're a video game master and you figure out some secret, the first thing you do is you ban everybody else from using it. You figure out the cheat codes and you're like, okay, nobody else is allowed to use the cheat codes, guys. Sorry, it was fun. I got to play with the cheat codes, but you're not allowed to do it. Everybody else is banned from it, right? That's what you do when you figure out the cheat codes. It's a tale as old as time. And this is the part where I can't figure out, what do people think nuclear weapons are even doing? This is the reason why I admittedly attacked Scott Horton, because I'm tired of these grifters who have no fucking clue what thermonuclear weapons are doing. They have no clue the significance of them. They just think there's a big boom. That's all they think about. They think it's a big release of heat. That's it. They have no concept of thermonuclear weapons whatsoever. And then we're seeing them connected all the time. The UFO community is consistently connecting thermonuclear weapons to nukes. Consistently. And nobody can put two and two together and go, maybe the energy source of the UFOs is nuclear. Whoa, maybe it's fusion, guys. Like, come on, man. We are in 2025. We should be smarter than this. We should be able to figure at least this out. It's not 1980 anymore. It's not 1942. Nuclear weapons aren't a scary boogeyman. They're a real thing that we all know exist. Okay, let's go to the next thing. Only a couple more clips. So he actually mentions, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here, kind of a long interview. He talks about Project Paper. Guys, are you guys remote viewing me right now? How are you guys knowing what I'm about to play before I post it? Previously, it was Zapparoo saying the Maxar stuff, and now you're talking about the Nazi stuff right as I pull up the Project Paperclip thing. Some of y'all got psychic powers in the chat. That's all I'm going to say. Some of y'all have some remote viewing powers. You need to get tested. Here we go. Project Paperclip.
So the first group of Nazi scientists arrived in the fall of 45, and there's the happy group photo of them at Fort Bliss in 46. So we have Paperclip running. We have Jay IOA running and JOA collecting all of this data about what's in the Nazi archives. Well, somewhere in there, Truman was briefed about the Nazi obsession with bloodlines and hybridization. They were really interested about this. So I have to speculate that the German scientists revealed the existence of a human hybrid breakaway civilization. Did they reveal that they research, trying to research reproducing advanced technology, hybrid advanced technology? And did they reveal their research into a superior civilization of ancient origin that's still on Earth? And off to the right side, you see the two vehicles there well, the only industrial country with an industrial base that's viable after World War II is the United States. And supposing that there were some plans or blueprints or whatever you want to call them of these two top vehicles, that's up to speculation. I don't know. But the bottom one definitely was a vehicle. It was taken to RIPAT T2 intelligence. And so the Horton 229 is an actual craft. And doesn't it look like some of our stealth craft today?
Wait, what? That's a real craft? That one at the bottom is a real craft we got from the Nazis. No fucking way. If you're just listening on audio, it looks just like a B-2 stealth bomber. I mean, it looks just like our drones and our B-2 bomber. And we took that from the Nazis in the 40s? There's no way. There's no way that comes from the 40s, is it? Shit, chat. People in the chat are saying it does come from the 40s. Yeah, it looks like a bat wing. So tomorrow I'm going to be talking with Jason Giorgiani, and we're going to have our conversation about thermonuclear weapons, Project Paperclip, and I'm going to bring this slide up because I want to learn even more about the Nazi stuff, because we quite literally took the Nazi scientist, Werner von Braun, and they started NASA. They started NASA. And the biggest part that he just said, he said that we were the only industrialized nation after World War II. Keep that in mind. We were the only industrialized nation after World War II. So we were the only place that could have absorbed these people. So when people wonder, like, what is the breakaway civilization? Who is the breakaway civilization? We are the breakaway civilization. You are living in it. If you're in America, you're in the breakaway civilization. Why do you think we're so much more advanced than all these other countries on the planet? Because we have a leg up. We've been developing this technology, and the technology is generally hidden, but it's leaking out over time. And so we're getting more and more advanced at a very rapid rate. So now we're seeing AI coming online. We're seeing fusion power coming online. These are things that don't feel natural. They don't feel natural to me. 10 years ago, AI was a pipe dream. It was basically a myth. It was a thing that you saw on TV, but you never thought it was going to be real. And now we use AI every single day, and it's only getting more powerful. We thought fusion power was never going to happen. Now we have agreements being inked in paper between Microsoft, OpenAI, Google, etc., for fusion power in the next 5 years. In the next 5 years. They're already building the plants right now. They're building the fusion plants right now. I do want to point out this. I've seen this a lot. Ben Mallet with numbers in your names. First of all, anybody that has numbers in their names is a retard. At least have enough originality to not put numbers into your name. That just shows that you're a low IQ NPC that can't think, but otherwise put your birthday or other stupid crap in your name. Number two, the term crashing out has lost all meaning. It's lost all meaning. What's happening right now is not crashing out. This is not what crashing out is. Not even remotely close to crashing out. It seems like retards on the internet, mostly these groiper, racist losers, they're just all pathetic incel losers. Most of them are bots. They're not even real people. They just use terms incorrectly. And the problem I have with it is it's exactly like the woke left. The woke right is exactly like the woke left. They misappropriate terms and use them incorrectly to attack people until the point where they have no meaning anymore. Like the word terrorist. We use the word terrorist so much it lost all meaning. Nobody knows what terrorist means anymore. We use the word Nazi so much. The left used the word Nazi so much that it lost all meaning. And now you hear people doing the same thing. You're crashing out, Ashton. You're crashing out. Guys, crashing out has a specific meaning. It implies someone is melting down. It implies someone is emotionally unhinged and melting down. And when I crash out, I usually announce that I'm going to crash out about it, right? Something that really triggers me. So I would just ask that you try to be a little bit less retarded in the future. I know it's impossible for a lot of you people that are like, think that Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens are the truth seekers of the world, right? But it just comes off as like ignorant, pathetic. It comes off like you're just a big loser that can't have a normal conversation with somebody. That's how it comes off to people, right? So please stop misappropriating and misusing words and use them in their proper context. I get it that you're angry. I get it that I destroyed the illusion that you have in your head of the Jews that are evil and controlling the world. I get that. I get that you're upset about it. I just don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about your opinions. I don't give a fuck about how much you hate the Jews. And I absolutely don't give a fuck about what your opinion of me is. Carry on. Okay. Project Paperclip. The next was, he talks about Roswell. Roswell was supposedly the start of all this. I don't even really care that much about this, but the CIA, yeah, it is really the low IQ ones as well, right? Like all the dumbest people have now globbed on to the whole Israel derangement syndrome thing, and they've ruined it, right? At least before, people were bringing up good points and good arguments about maybe we should have less foreign influence. Now it's just reached straight up retarded levels. It's gone to the point now where like anything that happens in the world is the Jews' fault, and there's always 10 people in the replies going, it's always the Jews every single time. Every single time, it's always the Jews. Like, this is how you radicalize yourself. This is how you turn yourself into a complete moron. So I urge you to think for yourself, and I urge you to stop getting your opinions from morons and idiots on the internet. I really urge that. I'm probably going to skip the Roswell stuff because the reality is you guys probably know more about Roswell than I do, but it is interesting that the CIA started right after Roswell. The CIA started right after Roswell. That's something that I can't ignore. I dismiss a lot of the UFO stuff. And people go, they can't all be ours, Ashton. They can. They literally can all be ours. I'm not saying they necessarily are. I'm just saying all the UFOs could theoretically be ours. It is possible. It's not likely, but it's possible. It's possible that even the Nazis were building crazy stuff in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. We've had relativity understood since the turn of the last century. It's been a very long time that we've understood relativity. Now, a couple last clips. These are actually just some badges. So at the end, John Ramirez goes through some badges, and you're going to notice a couple of these badges, chat. You're going to notice a couple of them. And so what he implies with these badges is he implies that they have nefarious intent. Like people actually thought about what they were going to put on these badges. Which
said she's Angelique.
I agree. I mean, look at these badges. I just want to, I would pay anything to be in the room with the NRO. Like, whose job is it to make these badges? Be like, hey guys, you know what? For NROL 39, what if we just put a giant squid on the whole planet and have one of the tentacles wrapping around an anime girl? That last part's made up, but the rest of it is 100% real. The rest of it's 100% real. And if you don't believe me, well, here you go. Where is it? NROL 39, which is my favorite one. Where is it? Come on now. Come on, John Ramirez.
I don't know if this is Draco.
Here it is.
But if there's any amateur astronomers out there, that might be a clue hidden in plain sight. I don't know what constellation that is at all. That's 38. 39 is the octopus. And there's our octopus on a payload fairing.
Look at that. NRO 39. And what is the slogan? Like, who came up with this slogan? Nothing is beyond our reach. So you're telling me, you're like, hey, let's make a badge, and I'm going to put a tentacle squid monster on it, covering the whole planet. And then at the bottom, we'll just have a totally non-nefarious comment that'll say, nothing is beyond our reach. And by the way, this is going to be on a satellite that we're going to send into outer space. I look at this shit and I'm just like, are they? Maybe they are. Maybe are we the bad guys? Are we Hydra? Are we the Hail Hydra? I kind of feel like we might be the Nazis. The more I see stuff like this, it's harder and harder for me to defend. Harder and harder for me to defend these people. Because this could just be like a pixie or like a unicorn. It doesn't have to say any crazy shit on it. It's just a logo. It doesn't have to say anything on it. There's actually no reason for there even to be a logo. Why do we even have logos for NRO, for rocket launches? We don't need that. But we did it anyway. We did it just because it's fucking crazy and we want to freak people out. Because this implies that our satellites are seeing everything. That's what this clearly implies. Our squid octopus people are literally seeing everything. Now, here's another one that you're going to recognize. Boom. Wait, let me go back just a little bit. Okay. The Green Door, chat.
Heavy launch, the rocket that actually launched it from
our last
Space
clip.
Launch Center number 6 at Vandenberg. Space Launch Control, maybe number 6. The devil, you know.
The
Get
devil
your kicks
you know.
on 66.
Wait, where is it? It must be coming up here.
And Green Door.
Here it is.
Green Door assignments in the Air Force are black program assignments. And if you look at this patch, I don't know if it's a magician or an insect, but this patch is so intriguing because the more you look at it, you see more things into it. But I see 2 red eyes here.
Bro, it's a fucking assassin with a knife in his hand. Bro, I mean, I can tell what I'm looking at in the imagery on this. It's a image of the Earth with a green assassin guy with his eyes with a fucking knife in his hand. And then for no reason, for literally no reason, at the part where there is the United States, there's like a red blob right near where Huntsville, Alabama is. Are you guys seeing that? You see that red blob? I'll make it bigger. Look at this. Look at this weird red blob in the United States. Like, why is there a weird red dot on the United States? It doesn't even need to be there. They added it there clearly with some purpose, and it looks to me like it's at Space Juice City, Huntsville, Alabama. At least very close. Look at this knife guy. Look at this knife guy. This is the sketchiest thing ever, and they put it on a badge. Literally, and look at just reading the badge. The badge quite literally says a lifetime of silence behind the green door. What do we think that implies, chat? What do we think the assassin guy with a knife, the assassin with a knife that says a lifetime of silence behind the green door? What could that imply? You know what it implies to me, chat? It implies to me that if you go behind the green door, you are never going to talk about it. If you talk about your green door assignment, that's how you go 6 feet underground. That's how they have a legal justification for an extrajudicial execution. A lifetime of silence, quote unquote, behind the green door. MH370 was almost certainly a green door assignment. Almost certainly. I guarantee you they're not breaking out the orbs for conventional operations. They're only breaking that technology out for the covert black operations that are green door assignments where if you talk about it at all, game over, baby. Best case scenario is you go to prison for like the rest of your life. Worst case scenario is they destroy your life, you don't live any longer, etc., etc. One thing we don't mess around with is nuclear weapons, thermonuclear weapons. That's why the secrecy. That's why they're hiding all this stuff. That's the reason why Eric W. Davis, at the beginning of this, when I showed you guys the clip, why he says he'll never talk to Congress. Unless the president of the United States comes out and issues a pardon. That's what, a pardon is what I said. I said that Edward Lynn needs a pardon. I don't think he would talk even with a pardon because I think they've brainwashed these people so much that they consider it an act of being a traitor if they were to tell the truth about this stuff, about this technology. But that's what we would need, is we would need an executive order by the president giving amnesty to all these UFO people, all the people that have been behind the green door, that have seen these black projects and have seen this advanced technology. And what I'll say here, I am pushing the limit of what I'll talk about, but I have spoken to, let's just say, somebody relevant. Let's just say somebody relevant in the administration that's in the military. And they told me that they have been exposed to stuff that they couldn't explain. They've been exposed to stuff that they hadn't been read in on that couldn't be explained. And I said, yeah, it's probably anti-gravity technology, probably plasma technology. And if you want to seem smart to all the other people that are in the know, you should pretend like this doesn't freak you out. I said, you should pretend like plasma orbs flying around doesn't freak you out. Because if it does freak you out, then they're not going to let you in. You got to be chill, bro. You got to be a chill dude if you want to be let in on the secret plasma orb, gravity manipulation, thermonuclear weapon technology. If you're not a chill dude, ain't happening. Okay, guys, we went really long tonight. Let me do some super chats, and then let me play our Tom Bearden clip, which I'll pull up here, which I've got ready for us. Tom Bearden the GOAT. I think this is a new one, guys. Thank you, Pilled Chat, and thank you, Rumbled Chat. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll try to find the tweet about John Ramirez. It really freaked me out. The USA 229 tweet by John Ramirez was super bizarre, man. Anyway, at the end of this interview, there's not much more after this. The end of this interview, he basically says he believes that the reptilians are controlling the government. Which, I gotta say, seems crazy as shit to me. But after he just explained all that stuff about the CIA and how the CIA operates, the guy is clearly more in the know than the average person in the United States. So I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to give the reptilians a 1% chance. We're going to, just out of sheer respect for John Ramirez, we're going to give the reptilian story a 1% possibility of being legit. Oh, I didn't have the chat up the whole time, guys. I apologize. Timothy Foster, thank you for that. Don't know, brother. Thank you for the continued donations. I appreciate you. Alex Slobnik. Saw you. Oh, you were the one. Saw you found my paper. I have not read it all yet. I did just take a quick look at like the Grok summary. Sounds like it could be legit. What I want to say here, I don't want to get people's hopes up, and I don't want people to depend on me. People send me so much stuff. People say, oh, I think I found the unification theory. Guys, it's already been discovered. Maybe you did discover it, but you're not going to get any credit. You're just rediscovering what's already been figured out. That's like the main point of everything I've been revealing, is that the military industrial complex, the defense contractors, they've already had unification figured out. They've already had gravity figured out. So if you're somebody who's trying to like clout chase because you think you figured out, unification, maybe you did. But I'm here to just put some cold water on it and say, you're not going to become famous or get a bunch of credit for doing that. So if that's your goal, I suggest finding better goals, finding more useful goals, because let's do something that's going to be beneficial. Now, that being said, I took just a very brief glance. I have not had a chance to read through it. It did seem like, you were connecting the main ideas, superconductivity, Salvatore Pais's concepts. And yes, that's going to probably lead to gravitational manipulation. And so, yes, follow-up says, a neutronic boron-11 plasma drone, detailing the drone that could match MH370. Certainly could be, guys. Certainly could be. And then lastly, I think you'll like my Ashton version. I've learned so much from you, and I'm glad that you learned a lot. That's awesome. And I'm glad you were able to do this, and I'm glad you were able to figure this stuff out. Once again, I don't tell people what to think. I do give you my opinions. Everybody should be open about their opinions. But I just try to show you the information, the research, the scientific papers, the people. And then you can come to your own conclusions. It's certainly possible that I'm wrong about some or maybe even all of this. And I could even still be wrong about the MH370 videos. What I tell people too is that I always second guess. What if I'm wrong? You guys think that I never asked what if I was wrong about the MH370 videos? Of course I did. First question I told myself was, if I'm wrong about these videos and I go out there to the public going crazy about them, I am opening myself up to lawsuits. The families could come after me. people could theoretically disprove me, make me look like a laughing stock. None of those things ever happened. None of those things ever happened because the videos are real. Nobody ever sued me. Government never came, knocked on my door. Nobody ever did any of those things. But this is like in stark contrast to what's been going on with like the Charlie Kirk stuff. For example, Candace Owens, Ian Carroll, the rest of these woke right people who are not MAGA, by the way, they're anti-MAGA, as anti-MAGA as you could possibly be. They don't ever ask the question, what if I'm wrong? They don't ever ask that question. Because if they're wrong, and Charlie Kirk was not a vast Israel conspiracy, then they're quite literally defending a murderer. They're quite literally trying to get a murderer to go free. Of course, they don't ever ask themselves that question because that paints them in a terrible light. And that's what they're doing, and that's what they are. Candace Owens, who's quite literally said to the CNN reporter, told her face up, she doesn't believe that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. It's overwhelming evidence that he did it. If Candace Owens is wrong, she's quite literally trying to help a murderer get off from his conviction. That is and can only be described as satanic, as demonic. And I think she would even agree with that characterization. The thing that she can't accept is that she's lying, that she's wrong. Maybe not even lying. Maybe she's just wrong. And this is why people need to be careful. So I asked myself every single day, what if I'm wrong about this? Am I willing to face the consequences for being wrong? And the answer was yes. Are any of the grifters willing to face consequences for them being wrong about Charlie Kirk? No, none of them are. And if they are, not if, when they are proven wrong, they are not going to apologize. They're not going to apologize. They're going to double down. And they're never going to look internally at their own behaviors and their own actions. And honestly, I literally pray every day that they don't get Tyler Robinson off on a technicality. If Tyler Robinson gets off on a technicality because they tainted the jury pool with all this bullshit, it will be the end of Tucker Carlson. It'll be I just read Tucker Carlson in the chat. It will be the end of Candace Owens and Ian Carroll and the rest of them. Not only will I help make sure that they are persona non grata forever, I will actively work to debank them, deplatform them, and get them permanently canceled from all of media. That is an absolute promise. If they get a murderer off because of their disinformation and misinformation on the internet, their lives are over. Their lives are over. In fact, the first thing that will happen is Candace Owens will get sued by TPUSA for every single penny that she has, if there's anything left from Macron. Macron is going to take Candace Owens to the cleaners already. Okay, so that's enough on that. I didn't mean to go more into the politics stuff, but you guys drew it out of me. And then the last one is Grok will misread the paper. Yeah, I'll take a look at your paper later. I appreciate you just spending the time and the donations to check it out. Patriot Expan says government stays 25 years ahead of known tech. Exactly. And everybody agrees to this. Everybody knows this is the case. And yet when you say, hey, man, we got some plasma orbs flying around, they go, no, that's crazy. We can't have plasma orbs. What do you mean that plasma like produces its own electromagnetic fields? Oh, wait, it does? Oh, yes, plasma does produce its own electromagnetic fields. Okay, here's another one. Brian, thank you for this donation. Says, deuterium and tritium make the fusion go round. I'm going to tell you something kind of embarrassing that I was wrong about, or not necessarily wrong about, just ignorant about. I didn't realize that tritium is just helium, is just hydrogen 3. Deuterium is hydrogen 2. Tritium is hydrogen 3. It's all just hydrogen. It's all just hydrogen that we're mixing with boron and lithium. Just different variants, different isotopes. That's it. That's the only difference. We just call it deuterium and tritium to confuse people. We're basically just confusing people with it. So The more that you dig into this, it's just really, it's actually gets simpler and simpler. We use all these words, things we're like, wait, it's just hydrogen all the way down? And this is the craziest part. This is the craziest part. What is the scientific paper that I constantly refer to? What is Hal Puthoff's first 0-point energy paper? Who knows? The ground state of the hydrogen atom. Why was Hal Puthoff's first scientific paper about 0-point energy the ground state of the hydrogen atom? Why is Hal Puthoff talking to Edward Teller having a conversation with Edward Teller, the father of the hydrogen bomb? Why? Because Hal Puthoff understood that 0-point energy is directly connected to the theory and development of thermonuclear weapons. It's all about hydrogen. Hydrogen is the simplest element with just standard 1 electron on it, unless we make different isotopes of it. Very interesting stuff, guys. People ask me, where can I get us? Everybody always asks, where can I learn about this? Where can I get caught up on this? There's no easy way. You can either just listen and take what I say at face value, which I don't recommend you do, or you can teach yourself electrical engineering and physics. You're looking at somebody right now that's been doing that for 2 years. You can either look at that and say, oh, it took you 2 years to get where you're at right now, or you can also look at it and say, it only took you 2 years to get where you're at right now. However you want to look at it. Or you can just skip the line and you can say, okay, nukes are manipulating space-time. I don't need to know about how, but it's just doing it. There you go. Choice is yours. If you want to listen to people from a mainstream perspective, I suggest listening to Veritasium videos or Float Head Physics. Great physics videos. If you want more of the conspiratorial side, then you should listen to Tom Bearden. If you're more on the UFO side, then you should listen to Eric Davis, Hal Puthoff, Paul Sidz, and basically everything that Stephen Greer has done. And I don't mean his CE5 stuff. I mean his interviews with the Black Project engineers. Stephen Greer's interviews with the Black Project engineers are really, they're just telling you exactly what's going on. They're telling it to you. Okay. How many more donos do we have? Oh, okay. Only one more dono. Whew. Jeff, have you heard of William Mills Tompkins' story? No, I have not heard of that. So may have to look at that one. William Mills Tompkins. What does this thing say? Selected by Extraterrestrials, Volume 2. Okay, so that sounds like an interesting one. May have to check that one out later. Okay, guys, that's all of the donos. So the last thing for tonight, where is my X? Here it is. Let's pull up the X chat. Oh, man, and boy, do I hope. Out of all the people, Scott Horton would be perfect to debate. Perfect. Because he's a historian. People respect him as this great historian. And so for me to come in and just completely dismantle him on thermonuclear weapons and the development of thermonuclear weapons and physics and how they operate, that is probably number one on my list for a person that I would want to debate about this technology. Because guaranteed, he's a blue-pilled person that thinks that UFOs are all mumbo-jumbo stuff, right? And he has no understanding of E equals MC squared or the significance of aneutronic fusion or any of these concepts. He probably doesn't know about Ripple Project. And better yet, he's egotistical beyond all belief. The guy thinks he's the smartest person in the world. So taking him down like 5 pegs would be not just a benefit for humanity, but it would also go and show that not only is he kind of a phony, but that I know way more about nukes than he does too. So I hope that Scott Horton doesn't bitch out like a little coward pussy, but I can smell a pussy a mile away, like I did with Ian Carroll. I told you guys Ian Carroll was going to dodge. He dodged. I knew that Dave Smith would dodge. He dodged as well. And I know Scott Horton's going to dodge. They're all in the same community of grifters. None of them can withstand a debate against somebody who's intelligent, that knows what they're talking about. And they're deathly afraid of being exposed by somebody that knows more about the topics than they do, as we saw recently. Okay, that being said, here is our moment of Zen for tonight, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. Share, like, reply, do whatever you want to do. Go complain about Israel in the comments, whatever you want to do. I don't mind. I still appreciate you guys anyway. I just want you to know that even if we disagree on politics, that's fine. I don't care. I haven't blocked any of you anyway. Feel free to rage at me, whatever you want. The whole point of politics is that we don't agree. That's literally the point of politics. If everybody agreed on politics, politics wouldn't be an issue. So don't take it too harshly. Also, thank you for this last donation that just showed up. Zappariah. Wait, we got multiple Zaps? What is this? Zapparu's wife right here? Chat, we got more than one Zap now. They're multiplying. We might have just found Zapparu's significant other. If not, maybe we're playing Cupid right now. Might be playing Cupid. Zapparu and the other Zap. Maybe you need to hit those DMs up. Just saying, guys. Okay. Enough of that. Wait, where is it? I'm like, I'm not even sharing anything here. Zap Mariah and Zapparu. I feel like love is brewing. Love is in the air. Okay, Tom Bearden. Take us home, Tom Bearden. I have not seen this Tom Bearden video yet, so hopefully it's good. Here we go. Moment of Zen.
Now, there are indeed some natural scalar interferometers around that can be studied if one is very careful. One of the standard phenomena that is produced by this fashion is what is called earth stress lights, earthquake lights, mystery lights, ghost lights, and so forth. There's a myriad of terms for the will-o'-the-wisp. It is produced usually in or near fault zones in the earth. Now let us discuss what we have when we have a tectonic plate fault zone in the earth itself. In other words, we have a split under pressure, under high stress of the tectonic plate rock itself. In that case, what we have is something like on this diagram.
This is why he loves earthquakes.
We have, for example, very high pressure in the rock on each side of the crack, and it is stress relieved in the crack itself. And so we have indeed a scalar interferometer. The rock is producing very high phi field from the charges of the telluric currents flowing through it and the pressure. It is also producing it on the other side, and those two can couple together and form vector waves under certain circumstances. Now, the quartz in the rock is, in fact, a piezoelectric crystal, and there are little grains of various size in the quartz, and they're randomly oriented by and large. Under pressure, then, this becomes what we can refer to as a Prigogine system. Ilya Prigogine in 1977 was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics for producing the new thermodynamics of systems far from thermal equilibrium. And this is such a system, or it can be, in a scalar interferometer in a natural stress points and fault zone in the Earth. For example, under the Prigogine effect, what we now are led to believe is that from total disorder, highly chaotic disorder, large-scale order can emerge and stabilize, completely in contradistinction to the present linear thermodynamics theory. And in fact, if this system becomes a Prigogine system, that is what happens. Large-scale orders of electromagnetic field emerge and stabilize. And so we will expect to produce electromagnetic field at a distance. The way it's actually produced at a distance is with coupling of scalar waves. That is, each of the little tiny quartz crystals also has little stress cracks in it and also is a little tiny interferometer. And so these little scalar interferometers have a myriad of, for example, frequencies that they are producing as they are squeezed and stressed. They constitute an approach toward a Fourier transform of patterns. Under certain conditions, those patterns can actually form based on Fourier transformation. And if two of them form at a distance just right, they couple to form the standard little spook light or mystery light that we see connected with fault zones and earth stress activity. And that is exactly how they are produced, and they're produced by Tesla scalar interferometry.
Wow. Okay, I'll explain real quick. We talk about piezoelectric. Imagine a rock. Pretend like this is a quartz rock, right? These are my iPods. Imagine this is a quartz rock. So this quartz rock is in equilibrium. That means all the charge has canceled out. The positive and minus charges have canceled out. When you squeeze it, when you squeeze the quartz rock, electricity flows. Why does electricity flow? Because when you're squeezing the quartz rock, you're moving it out of equilibrium. All the positive and minus charges are canceling each other out. That's equilibrium. When you squeeze it together, the positive charges move away from the negative charges. We separate our positive and negative charges in the quartz rock. Therefore, electricity flows. So what he's saying is that as Elia Prigogine showed, if you move a system far from equilibrium, far from standard, pull those charges apart, spontaneous order can form. So what he's saying there is that we can get a formation a non-equilibrium stable formation can form. And what he's implying is that if this happens, you can get scalar waves, longitudinal waves, gravitational waves can form. And these gravitational waves, when they form and they interfere, they can produce these lights that people are seeing. Energy can appear at a distance. So this is how he's connecting the idea of earthquakes to Tesla's scalar interferometry and scalar waves. That right there was your moment of Zen for tonight. Tom Bearden, guys. Listen to Tom Bearden if you want to know the truth. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, MH270X. I hope you guys have a great night. We will be back on Friday, and on Friday, we're going to talk about MH370. We're going to take a look at that video I was showing you guys. We're going to dig into that, and then we'll talk about some other stuff as well. Hope you have a great night. Peace out, everybody. Love you. Later.
Infrared eyes, scanning the black, tracking the heat, never turning back. Control 22, a covert gaze. Control 33, in the cosmic maze. Controls in the mix, secrets untold. Silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interest, far and wide. As Spears, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. In the silence of space, they keep their post, shields unseen yet feared the most. With precision and speed, they warn of danger, keeping us safe from the missile's anger. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. And roles in the mix, secrets untold, silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interest, far and wide. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared